Pod Mortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers, free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. There may be delays due to a hectic schedule and all projects being read on a first-come, first-served basis, but everything will be read and responded to. William Rush has individually produced numerous projects, including Pack is Here, Before, The Cottage, The Winemaker, and Day by Day. Their multi-award-winning film Group premiered and was celebrated at multiple film festivals as well as screenings, both in person and via Zoom, that were made graciously available to us and our patrons.
Original Cinematic has many exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, has been completed. The award-winning Sweetener is in development, Fetish begins shooting in September, and Encore will begin next spring. Their documentary Women in Conversation is slated for a September release, and we are looking forward to each and every one of them. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter-Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter-Sayapin.
This week, we're recording live from a makeshift church discussing the 2024 psychological horror film, Heretic. This film was written and directed by Scott Beck and Bryan Woods. Frequent creative partners Beck and Woods collaborated again to create this unique exploration of belief and faith. With outstanding performances from its cast, impressive production design, and thought-provoking dialogue, Heretic blends its unnerving horror with nuanced theological conversation. Its twists and turns and memorable sequences have made it a recent standout for many horror fans. This film was requested to us by friends of the show, Martin Shaw, Megan Martinez, Bobby Joe, Scott Troutman-Wise, Seth Schaff, Tanner Rutgers, TJ Bronson, Katie Face, Jason Chastain, James Floyd, Jason Wright, Gordon Sutherland, Brittany Cat, Twitchy Witchy Girl, and Madison. We want to thank them all for their support as well as this suggestion. This film was also the winner of our December Patreon poll, so thank you to all of our patrons who participated and voted. If you want to help us pick an episode, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/thepodmortem. So, what did you guys think of Heretic the first time you saw it?
I watched this this past Tuesday, actually, so it'll be last week when this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But we had been meaning to watch it and just, you know what I mean? Finally, it was like, okay, good, an excuse to watch it. I did enjoy this. This was kind of a different feeling for me. I kind of was, I did enjoy this movie a lot. Let me start off by saying that.
Okay.
I did like it. But I think that we took some turns to where I was in, and then like we went into another door, and I was like, oh, okay. But everybody really kind of does what they're supposed to do. I was impressed, I'll be honest, because there's some stuff that did kind of make me think, and I was just kind of like, oh shit, oh, and then upon another rewatch, I was like, oh, all right. I was like, I see what was going on here. There's some things that do work. There's some things that don't work. But overall, I did have a good time, I'll be honest.
I think I watched this movie whenever it first landed on HBO Max. Not sponsored, just saying. But I remember really enjoying it because of just watching how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated especially the first about hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think from there, it starts to take a turn that I don't think is for me, really.
Okay.
And I don't think lives up to what came before.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even if the narrative doesn't completely end up satisfying for me, I like everything else about it. I think the technical side is impeccable.
Yeah.
The production design is so fantastic, and it conveys so much as we continue to move through this story and reflect what is going on in the story in a really, really compelling way.
Yeah.
I think the camera work and the cinematography is so good in this film. And it's not going to surprise you when we talk about it later who did it, because he's always doing amazing work.
Okay.
But I just think that the biggest takeaway from this film is really the performances, because I think the back and forth of the dialogue and just how honestly captivating as a character this Mr. Reed is because of Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that he does such good work here, and it's honestly like eerie in an odd way because he's not outright scary ever.
Yeah.
But there's something about him that is just really, really unsettling and unnerving. But then there are these conversations that you're like, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Giving me a lot to chew on. But I think, and it is, I imagine, depending on who you are and what you believe in, this is a different film for you. I have no dog in this fight. I don't care. And so it's like watching two people who are really devout on both sides like go at it a little bit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So just, you got your popcorn, enjoy.
Right. I had never seen this before either, like John Paul, when this won the poll. And I sat down and started scripting it. And we get to the first scene where there is this kind of like almost chess game dialogue. And, I just piggybacking on what you said about Hugh Grant, he's so like you're transfixed on him. He's just so good in this. And I was like, I cannot keep pausing this. I'm just going to watch it. Like I'm feeling so tense and I'm so wrapped up in this like monologuing and conversation and presentation that I want to give it my full attention. So I did. I watched the whole thing and I was like, damn, that was really good. And I agree that the ending, I actually quite like the ending because I feel like it can be taken in numerous ways. I will say leading up to the ending isn't as strong as the beginning. Like you said, T, that first hour, it's immaculate. Like it's so fucking good. And I feel like I can see how someone would love the rest, and I can also see how someone would hate the rest. I kind of fall in between where I like it. I like aspects of it while admitting that other aspects of it kind of don't work or kind of logically don't, pan out. But I'm enjoying it so much because I feel like it provides, it's kind of a jumping off point for a lot of conversations that could be had. And I think that it is difficult to have nuanced conversations when emotions run so high in topics like religion or belief or faith. It's not like, oh, we're debating what we like to or what our favorite pizza chain is. Like it runs so deep that it is interesting to have any kind of media that can be like, oh shit, well, I never thought about it in terms of that, or that was actually a really interesting conversation. And I think that this does give us that. It does give us this really new character in Mr. Reed. I just find truly fascinating. Just equal parts horrifying and kind of like unhinged college professor. He's so good. And Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, they're excellent. Like, everybody clocked in for this. I feel like it's just a really, I think, great movie, even if kind of the back half doesn't quite measure up to the front half. But before we can get into any of that conversation, I do want to talk, obviously, as always, about the production. I got my information from the Seeing is Believing featurette and from articles or interviews from Fandango, Gizmodo, The Guardian, Screen Daily, La Oficial, and Fangoria.
Okay.
So, firstly, Scott Beck and Bryan Woods met when they were 11 years old. They were already close friends when Beck saw Robert Zemeckis' Contact as a church-going teenager. He said that the conversation in it between Matthew McConaughey and Jodie Foster's characters made him think outside of what he'd been raised to believe for the first time in his life.
I'm going to be honest. I was expecting a much older movie, and then hearing that, I was like, oh, I'm the older.
I was wondering why you dissolved to death.
Yeah, well,
Was it like that gift from the Santa Claus?
yes, yeah.
You're like, that just came out a couple years ago. But Beck and Woods were heavily influenced by Contact. Sorry, John Paul. And by Stanley Kramer's Inherit the Wind. They said that a lot of religious horror uses Catholicism as a justification for kind of the supernatural horror that's going on, but they wanted to have a different conversation that included their personal feelings and fears and something that underlined the true terror of unwavering certainty, whether that be in belief or in disbelief.
Okay.
This was actually initially meant to be their second writing directing collaboration after Haunt.
I gotta say, I don't think we were fair to Haunt.
I totally agree. It keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
It haunts me.
Yes.
Wow, I wouldn't go that far. But,
I think that was episode 14.
Oh
yeah,
my
that was a
God.
long time ago.
Yeah. We were trying to be.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a lot of fun.
It
Yeah.
is.
They were going to do it after Haunt and ended up having to shelve it for two reasons. First, they almost felt like the exploration was too personal, like they were only making a film for the two of them and that they weren't sure if this would be anything that would resonate or that people would even want to see.
I don't think that should be a reason not to do something.
Yeah.
That's fair, yeah. But secondly, they were trying to write an intensely knowledgeable character without having the knowledge themselves. So it felt impossible.
Okay.
Okay, that might be a reason.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's lean more on reason two. So they put it on the back burner and they wrote other things and they studied. They read works on atheism by Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens. They read Lawrence Wright's Going Clear, Analyzing Scientology. They read biblical texts, Nick Bostrom's Simulation Theory, the Quran, and the Book of Mormon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I will say I remember the discovery of Dawkins and Hitchens when I was like 20 or something, and I got real annoying with it.
I was about to be my whole fucking personality.
And boy, am I glad that chapter of my life is over.
But sadly, Woods' father unexpectedly passed away due to cancer. And with their family so close since they were kids, it was a devastating loss to both Woods and Beck. They decided that in this place of darkness and raw vulnerability, it was finally time to make Heretic. So they write it and they end up sending the script with a lot of hope to producer Stacy Scher, whose credits are insane.
Yeah.
Okay? Just to name a few. And a few. Like, she's done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Pulp Fiction, Matilda, Aaron Brockovich, Django Unchained, Reno 911,
Damn.
The Skeleton Key, Along Came Polly, Freedom Writers, The Hateful Eight. That's just some of them.
Long Came Polly.
I put that in
Yeah,
for you.
Thank you.
That's a really good movie, though. But they called her a superhero and knew that her involvement would change everything. And after she read the screenplay, she quickly signed on. They ended up getting offers from several studios, but A24 was always their first pick. And when that offer came, they grabbed it. Heretic premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in September 2024, and it would go on to make $59 million against its $10 million budget.
Damn.
It's good.
Yeah.
But
Uh-oh.
as expected, despite Beck and Woods meeting with many Mormon and ex-Mormon friends in Salt Lake City to consult them and make sure they were addressing the themes with empathy and sensitivity, there was still backlash from the Mormon Church. They released a statement that Heretic promotes violence against women because of their faith, made light of the safety and importance of missionaries, and is, quote, dismissive of what believers find sacred.
I think no matter what they did, I think it's doubtful that the Mormon Church was going to be in favor.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's
for
true.
sure.
And you know what's a horror film without a little backlash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, I read an article about an ex-Mormon named Lexi Seals Johnson, who was raised in the church and would later leave and establish the Lost and Found Club for women and genderqueer ex-religious community in Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
And she held a screening for Heretic for them.
Okay.
As did Whitney Rose from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Which, if you're not watching that, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Okay.
And
I have a lot going on.
there's always room for Salt Lake. And Whitney Levitt from The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, they held like a joint screening. And she, I believe, is still Mormon. I don't know. I only watched the first season of that. Anyway. Whitney Rose, who has left the Mormon church, would even go on to say that she wishes more believers would watch the film, despite it being condemned by the Mormon church, because more followers would understand others' desire to leave.
Okay.
But the screenings and the dialogue resulting from this film between the religious and non-religious alike was, I think, Woods's and Beck's entire point. And the conversation is important, and Heretic serves as a poignant conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start that conversation right now.
All right.
Yeah. Now, before we convert this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Mortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's pray. A dark and pensive score crawls over the production vanity plates, but its swelling quiets, cut off by the rumbling of thunder as the screen brightens to reveal the side of a mountain. We pan out to find Sister Paxton and Sister Barnes, played by Chloe East and Sophie Thatcher, looking up at it from afar.
Chloe East, she was in The Fabelmans in 2022. And Sophie Thatcher, she was in Yellow Jackets.
Woo!
Yeah.
And The Boogeyman in 2023 and Companion in 2025.
She's kind of killing it right now.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate her performance in this film and Chloe
Both
East.
of them, yes.
Especially going up against what Hugh Grant is doing.
Yeah.
They hold their own, and it's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this was interesting. They were saying in interviews that they both grew up in the Mormon church.
Really?
Huh.
The directors said that Chloe East grew up in it, but other sources said she grew up around Mormons. But regardless, the directors had no idea until they were already cast that they had such close ties to the church and missionaries.
Okay.
Chloe East had even said in this interview that I read with her that she had friends currently on missions when they were filming this. So she really wanted to approach her role from a place of protection for them.
Okay.
And it was funny because she said that she never had any interest in doing horror at all. But when she got the script for Heretic and read it, she said that it felt like a play.
In all honesty, this could very easily make a stage production.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because she was like, I can't see myself running around and being chased by a goblin. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of different types of horror.
There's layers.
There's layers. But Paxton posits that she heard Magnum condoms are basically the same size as regular condoms. So it makes you wonder what else we believe just because of marketing. I feel like this is such an interesting proposition to start this film on.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly really impressive how well this screenplay is crafted.
Yes.
Because it is one of those things where it's like we are introducing thematically in the first line
Yeah.
of the film what we're talking about. And that's really good.
Mm-hmm. She goes on, if you grew up being told that the Book of Mormon was fake, you'd probably believe it because that's what you were told. But Barnes can't follow her here. She's stuck on the first assertion, and she counters, magnums are huge. She shares that her sister said her ex-husband had a frighteningly big peen, and they had to use magnums. The title appears between the two girls in white, Heretic.
Just a couple things. I wanted to say that the style of these opening credits,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's very cool looking,
Mm-hmm.
but I also thought that it could play into the theme as well because it kind of forms a frame.
Okay.
And this film is basically all about how you frame something.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I did also want to say that this opening dialogue, it's not the same, but it reminded me a lot of Loki and the nun in Dogma.
Dude, yeah. Yes.
That's
And
funny.
It worked. I don't know.
Yeah. This all is very funny at the beginning, but Upon my rewatch, I was like, we're being told a lot.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Right in our faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Paxton shakes her head, scoffing that sounds made up. But Barnes doubles down. She would call it an elephant trunk. We continue to pull back, revealing that Paxton and Barnes are sitting on a bench with the words large and red on the back. Who says size doesn't matter? It's an ad for condoms with the regular sized one cowering beneath the sea before a towering magnum. I'm guessing this is what sparked the conversation. Right. After a pause, Paxton admits that she's not sure where she saw it, but she was watching a video of these two people having intercourse, sexual intercourse, sex. She says that it was like amateur porn with the cameraman filming them, and the girl was moaning really loud, which she assumes is typical in that kind of video. But she's screaming, and then all of a sudden, in the hallway, off camera, you can hear a woman yell, "We can hear you."
She's doing a lot of qualifying.
Yeah.
Which I would assume maybe something like, what's a prawn? Porn?
Am I saying that right?
What's it called? We finally flip and see Barnes and Paxton from the front, sitting primly on the bench, dressed properly with their bags slung across their bodies and their name tags pinned to their coats. Paxton continues and Barnes sits uncomfortably, that the couple stops sexing, and the look of embarrassment and horror on their faces was just so painful. Then the porno girl, who is taking it from behind-ish, she speaks up defiantly, but under her breath, "Good." Despite that, you can literally see her soul being sucked out of her body. She says that all of her dignity is just gone. Like she's realizing for the first time, wow, this is my life. Effing a stranger on camera for money. It just made Paxton think that it's really poignant. Barnes nods with her brow furrowed, but Paxton explains it hit home for her in that moment that God's real and we have souls. It's divine confirmation. Barnes broaches carefully. So do you watch a lot of... But Paxton interrupts. No, she does not. Barnes laughs in relief and offers that it's okay, but Paxton repeats that she is not a pornography watcher.
She's a pornography watcher.
It's okay, Paxton.
Yes, that's okay.
It was so funny that she's like, and I don't even know where I saw it. It's like, well.
And that's what you got out of that?
Barnes nods and turns her attention back to the Book of Mormon in her lap, her notes jotted in blue cursive in the margins. But Paxton pulls her attention again, sighing that she just hopes this goes well. It's not a competition, but she hasn't baptized a single investigator on her mission yet. Barnes assures her that it's okay. She's only converted like 8 or 9 people herself.
That is wild.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to put it in context of something that I could relate to personally, and the only thing I could come up with were those like chocolate fundraisers that we did whenever we were teenagers.
Yes.
I had none. And we were selling chocolate with no strings attached. And we were never going to get that Razor scooter.
That was a pipe
That
dream.
was absolutely not going to happen. But she has convinced almost 10 people.
Yeah.
That whatever is, that's impressive.
We couldn't get him to buy a bar.
No. Slam the door in our face.
But Paxton's jaw drops along with ours. 8 or 9? She whispers, balls. But she changes the subject, wondering what Barnes thinks of what she was saying. But Barnes is confused. The porno thing? So Paxton clarifies. How has God shown Barnes that the church is true? Barnes admits that she hasn't really thought about it. Paxton offers, but you know it's true. Barnes pauses with a thin smile and a thoughtful expression. She does not respond, but the answer Paxton provided for her is good enough for Paxton, and she starts to read from her own book. If ye receive no witness until after the trial of your faith. We cut to a path of steep stairs erected into the grassy hills. Paxton repeats this, breathless, as she and Barnes carry their bikes up the stairs. Barnes questions, who do they have after this couple again? Paxton thinks it's that bald guy they met at Costco. As they labor up the steps, she offers that for every flight of stairs, their husbands get 5 times hotter. And Barnes laughs breathlessly.
This shot of the stairs is gorgeous.
It is.
It is, but that would
God
it
damn,
would.
dude.
It's like, we
Let
can't
alone-
go around?
Yeah,
I know.
and carrying your bikes on top of it.
Yeah.
But on a road, they pass a woman and her small child. And when they introduce themselves and try to speak to her, the woman blatantly ignores them, picking up her child and walking between them without so much as a glance. The sisters' words die away, and when they pass the next couple and try to introduce themselves again, they get the same reaction. We cut to them carrying their bikes back down the flight of stairs. Paxton wonders if when Barnes sings, she thinks she's either too high or too low. But Barnes admits that she doesn't really like to sing. Paxton thinks she has a beautiful voice. She's like, I know I don't have a beautiful voice, but I enjoy singing. And Barnes assures her that she does have a beautiful voice. Paxton, to me, is already hilarious.
Yes.
On another road, they walk their bikes again and spot a trio of teenagers, played by Haley Hansen, Elle McKinnon, and Hannah Huffman, standing on a crosswalk. One records with her phone while the other two dance and pose, and Paxton grins that she already loves them. But a waiting car honks, interrupting the video they're making, and the girls apologize as they dash out of the street with their phone and their iced coffees. They walk right over to Paxton and Barnes and ask if they can get a pic. Paxton is like, of course. Barnes stands to the side while Paxton poses with her hand on her hip, flanked by two of the girls as the third takes the picture. The girl on Paxton's left asks if it's true. Paxton's like, is what true? The girl asks, do you wear magic underwear? Paxton giggles. What? The girl immediately rips down Paxton's skirt, revealing her temple garments underneath. The three girls all laugh and run back across the street as Paxton scrambles to get her skirt back up.
Now, screenwriting-wise, this is setting up something very important later.
Yes.
But Podmortem PSA, I don't care what you believe and what somebody else believes. You can't go pantsing people in public.
Yeah.
This was so cruel.
Can't push them down. You know.
Well, she's busy. She has to pull up.
Yeah, well.
She's got to pull her skirt back up. Barnes should have beat their ass.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I see it. She could do it.
She could do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. It's just, this is so sad.
It
Yeah.
is.
Because she did, right? When she seen them, she was like, oh, I love those girls.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, yeah.
And she was even excited to take a picture.
Yeah.
As they walk together afterwards, the only sounds between them are the revolving spokes on their bikes and Paxton sniffles as she quietly cries. She wipes the tears beneath her eyes and adjusts her glasses with a tearful sigh. Barnes just looks ahead, and when they approach a house shrouded by greenery and trees beyond its fence, she points out, this is it.
There's something that I noticed on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
The house number is 237.
Okay.
The Shining.
Yeah.
Take a
Okay.
shot.
Take a shot.
I was really intrigued by that because, and there honestly are some scenes later that can kind of call to mind The Shining if you think about it.
Interesting.
Okay.
I love The Shining.
Me too. Let's move on.
We're in close on Barnes as she uses her red bike lock to secure her bike. But from behind her, Paxton speaks. People think we're weird. Barnes asks what she means, and our focus shifts to Paxton, standing with her gaze lowered and her arms crossed. She says that she doesn't know. That South Park musical kind of makes fun of them. But Barnes counters that she's listened to some of the songs, and they're actually pretty funny. Thunder rumbles as she slips the red key into her pocket and offers, who cares what people think anyway? She stands and tells Paxton sincerely that she is awesome. This finally coaxes a smile and a thanks from Paxton. Rain is starting to fall as the sisters Barnes and Paxton take the long walk up to the house, but we stay behind, lingering as the rain patters against the red bike lock that anchors their only modes of transport to the house's black fence. Sure, it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Also, red bike lock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once they reach the front door, Paxton knocks and stands back, waiting with Barnes, who consults her phone, raindrops collecting on its screen. She looks at a text from a sister Hall, who provided today's list with names and addresses. Chad Zimmerman, Tam Ritchie, Lori Melia, Nicole Caldwell, and finally and simply, Mr. Reed.
So this is Sister Hall's fault. Everything that comes from this.
Yes.
Good to know.
Barnes looks up at the door as a light becomes visible in the darkness behind the small window of frosted glass. Paxton begins to rehearse in a whisper. Hi, I'm Sister Paxton. She mutters to herself as she and Barnes nod approvingly and shiver in the rain. As thunder cracks in the sky again, Barnes decides, all right, let's get you a baptism. She steps ahead and knocks on the door again before passing the phone to Paxton. Again, they wait. Something occludes the small light beyond the door as someone moves inside. Finally, it opens to reveal a man carrying a watering can. He smiles, charming, polite, and British, as he bids them a bright good afternoon. It's Mr. Reed, played by Hugh Grant.
It's Hugh Grant.
Right.
I mean, he was in Love Actually in 03, Four Weddings and a Funeral in 94, Bridget Jones' Diary in 01, Mickey Blue Eyes in 99, Notting Hill in 99 as well, and 9 Months in 95. That's where I met Mr. Grant.
The directors had said that there were several A-list actors that were interested in the role of Mr. Reed, but they really only wanted Hugh Grant.
Okay.
They were, as they said it, very consciously wanting to exploit and weaponize his 35 years of doing rom-coms. They said that it did take some persuading and courting, but by the time Hugh Grant finally said yes and met with Beck in his office, he had already done his homework on Beck and Woods and recognized that the bat hanging on Beck's wall was from Haunt.
Really?
Yeah. They worked with the Canadian crew that had done Christopher Nolan films, meaning that they had done a lot in terms of filmmaking and performance. But they said that still nearly every day they broke into applause for Hugh Grant after cut was called.
Okay.
Not even surprised.
Yeah.
He was actually nominated for a BAFTA for this performance.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
For a BAFTA. I don't think that's the name. That's the name. He was.
That's the.
It didn't even sound
Well,
weird.
but everything else is like he's nominated for a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
That's
or
true.
an Academy
Yes,
Award.
yeah.
Maybe it is a fucking
Maybe
BAFTA. I don't know.
Paxton beams as she introduces herself and Barnes. When Barnes asks if he's Mr. Reed, he confirms that he is before shaking their hands. He recalls their names but gets them backwards, and they correct him with a giggle. Reed grins as he gets it right the second time. Paxton tells him that they stopped by because he said he was interested in learning more about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Reed is like, yeah. Barnes hands him a booklet, sharing that it will help him understand the restoration. Reed takes it, admitting that he already has one, but you can never have too many. As he flips through and lingers on an image of a smiling and saved family, Paxton says that it explains all the ways the Heavenly Father can reveal his gospel. As part of his plan, God chooses prophets like Adam, Noah, Abraham, and Moses. Reed smiles politely, but his eyes cast upward to the sky, the rain still pouring down, and his smile fades. He interrupts with a chuckle. Talking of Noah, it is very, very wet. But this only gets a slight pause from Paxton before she continues her monologue. I'm like, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Reed interrupts again and asks if they would like to come inside. Barnes asks if he has a girl roommate. Reed's brows furrow at the question. A girl who? And Barnes clarifies. Unless there's a woman inside, they're not allowed to go in with him, but they can stand out here in the doorway if that's okay. Paxton adds that it's just for safety, and they really don't mind the rain. But Reed offers that his wife is home. Does that count? Barnes and Paxton nod that it does. That's perfect. And Reed explains that when they said roommate, he panicked. He hasn't had a roommate in a long time, but he has a soulmate, and that's good enough.
Aw.
He's so sweet.
Yeah.
Paxton and Barnes laugh and decides that they would love to come in and meet his wife. Reed steps aside and invites them in, asking if they like pie because his wife has one in the oven.
He is so personable
Mm-hmm.
and immediately likable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a weapon,
Yes. Yeah.
and you don't even realize.
Yeah.
As they step into the homey living room, Paxton admits that she's gained so much weight on her mission. People keep offering them treats, and Barnes adds that they can never seem to turn them down. Reed smiles that his wife loves to bake before asking if he can take their coats. Barnes and Paxton take off their name tags before peeling off their wet coats. Paxton gushes that she is so excited for the pie. She loves pie. Her grandma used to make the best pies, and Reed says that Paxton and his wife are going to get along just fine then. As he takes their coats, he warns that the walls and ceilings have metal in them. He hopes that's okay. Barnes says that they don't mind, and Reed decides that that's good. He leaves to check on the snacks and invites them to make themselves at home.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, on the first watch, I was, again, it just seems kind of innocent. Because
the way
he's already,
he says it.
He's already made me feel comfortable.
Yes.
And there's pie on the way.
There's pie coming.
Yeah,
I'll put up with a lot for pie. And honestly, my dumbass was like, lead? Like, what are we talking?
I don't know either, but they're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. This place is a palace.
They just get over it. They get over it so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
But it's peculiar.
Yeah, it is. It's like, thank you for telling me.
But he says it like, oh, I have water, but it's not very cold. Like,
Yeah.
like it's just like, it's fine. Like, but yeah, this may be a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reed steps out of the room and into the shadows beyond, disappearing into them as the door slowly creaks closed. Barnes and Paxton fasten their name tags to their shirts. Barnes is a plain black and Paxton's a soft pink cardigan buttoned over a floral white top. They take a look around the room. We linger on the steadily ticking clock, a basket on the chair with knitting materials inside, the sculpts of staring birds and owls on a shelf. Paxton takes off her glasses, settles them into their case, and puts them into her bag. She quietly gets Barnes's attention and points to a framed crocheted sentiment on the wall. Bless this mess. It's cute enough, the stitching framing the words adorned with cheerful hearts, but as we press in on it, the score grows uneasy, accompanying the reliable ticking of the clock. With a small smile, Barnes scans the cozy living room, her eyes gliding over the furniture and the flowery wallpaper, until she spots a tiny hexagonal-shaped window high on the wall. Rain beats against the glass, but a small moth sits on the window. Barnes watches it as it takes flight, fluttering up to the ceiling where its body clatters against the light fixture. We press in on Paxton's Mary Janes and her girlish white socks with pink embroidered flowers as she lifts up onto her tiptoes and peers forward at a framed photo of a much younger Mr. Reed, smiling and posing with his dog.
On its face, there's nothing at all that's startling about any of this.
No.
There is something oddly unsettling about the size of that window, but you don't register any of it?
No. And I think that, like, how high up it is,
Yeah.
how small it is, and then when we notice it, it's a moth trying to get out, and it can't.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there is something, like, bless this mess. It's, like, cute, but it's like, I don't know if we should be in here.
It does look, because upon the first time watching it again, I was just kind of like, oh, no, yeah. He's got stuff on the walls. The living room looks fine. It's comfy. He's been here a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching it again, I was like, man, those walls are really, like, bare.
Right.
Like, there's no windows. It's like, what the hell is this?
And the windows are weird as fuck.
Yeah,
like,
they
there's
are.
these little strip windows. There's that tiny, like, high up one. It's like,
Yeah.
it feels off, and you don't, like, immediately register why, but that is why.
And I mean, you have the bless this mess, and so Paxton's like, we hook, line, and sinker. We kind of got him a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
There's this knitting situation going on, so it's a very calm and casual home.
Yeah.
Maybe even someone else that was
Yeah.
knitting in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read in an interview where Beck and Woods said that when they were student filmmakers, they were in Iowa scouting locations for a short film they were making about the end of the world. They found this perfect little house and they knocked on the door, and this sweet elderly couple answered and invited them inside. So they sit in this quaint and comfy living room, and when the couple asked what the short film was about, they're like, oh, it's about the end of the world. The couple is like, we are fascinated by that because the apocalypse is actually coming. We've only got a few years left. So they launch off into this sincere but very scary assertion about the incoming apocalypse. And suddenly this cute, quaint living room was becoming dark and sinister around them. And they really wanted to capture that in Mr. Reed's living room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did a really good
Yeah.
job. I can't imagine. It's like, you got to be like, oh no, hell yeah, dude. Like, the world is fucking ending. Like, you can't be like, what the hell? Get me out of here. Like, that's scary.
Yeah.
You can only say that's crazy so many times.
Well, we got to go.
I think that's a good enough time as any to talk about the production design. The production designer is a guy called Philip Messina, and we have talked about some of his work before, mainly because he was the art director on The Sixth Sense.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
But he was also a production designer on 3 of those Oceans films.
Oh.
Steven Soderbergh.
Okay.
And the full run of the original Hunger Games films.
Oh, all right.
But he had said that in the script, the descriptions of the house were specific in tone, but open-ended in detail. And so he really let his creative juices flow when it came to designing this entire house, because as it turns out, this entire house and everywhere we go within it and everything we see was built on a soundstage.
That is one of the most shocking times I've ever heard that.
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah.
I felt the same way, but they said that it really gave them a lot of freedom, especially when it came to how to shoot the film,
Yeah.
which we'll also talk about a little bit later. But they could move walls out. They could do whatever they need to get all the different kinds of shots that they needed. But I was so surprised because everything about this house feels so legitimately lived in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was some suggestions from Hugh Grant as far as what to decorate some of the portions of the house with. And we'll get to another room that has a lot of things in it that had a lot of Hugh Grant's input on it.
Okay.
But Messina had talked about wanting to work with things that are angular and a bit off. And so we do see that already starting in this living room like we've talked about. And it is very interesting to me because the deeper we go into this house, the more off things start to seem.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the progression of these spaces is intentionally in step with the tone of the film. And so the deeper we get into this house, the deeper we're getting into what's going on.
Okay.
And you can legitimately feel that. And so they had even said that, and you can especially see it in some of the levels that we get to soon, Dante's Inferno was also
For sure.
quite an inspiration on them. And it's just a really, really impressive build, this house.
Yeah.
And when you see some behind-the-scene featurettes where they're actually going through and you see where it's like, oh, well, there's where the cameras are and everything, it's hard to even comprehend while you're watching the film because it feels so perfectly put together.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how weird and cool it would be to work on a film like that. And then when you watch it, you're like, damn, dude, it looks like, it looks like we're in a
that's true.
fucking
Yeah, we did that shit.
When they hear movement in the other room, both Barnes and Paxton stop their subtle snooping and settle back down. Mr. Reed's footsteps approach, and he finally enters the room carrying a tray housing 2 glasses of Coke, a coffee mug, and a lit candle. He admits that his wife is being shy, but the pie is nigh. He walks over to the coffee table and sets down the tray, presenting the women each with a glass of Coke before settling the mug and candle in front of himself. Barnes speaks up that his wife will need to be in the room with them, and Mr. Reed assures them that he understands. He implores them to take a seat and help themselves, and they do. Before he sits down himself, he wants to make it clear that he thinks it's good to be religious. Paxton grins that their work here is done then. After a quick laugh, Barnes shares that that's actually refreshing for them to hear that. Sometimes she thinks that religion isn't the center of culture anymore, and Reed agrees that it is fading, isn't it? Turning on a bright smile, Paxton asks if he's ready to hear about their Heavenly Father's plan for him. Reed says that he is, but he asks her to wait. He wants to know where they're both from. Paxton immediately offers that she's from Orem, Utah, and she's one of 8 daughters, which is just as bad as it sounds. She adds that Sister Barnes is from Salt Lake City, but Barnes amends this. She's originally from Philadelphia. Reed presumes that they were both raised in the church, and Paxton boasts, born and raised, but Barnes clarifies that her mother was a convert. When her dad passed away, they auditioned a few churches to see what was out there and make sure that they still believed in it. Reed commiserates that he knows that feeling very well. It's a very personal struggle to find your faith in a doctrine that you actually believe. It's a challenge he's struggled with for a very long time. What is the one true religion? A silence settles upon them despite Reed asking this question with a gentle chuckle, and Barnes begins to look thoughtful, but Paxton speaks up. It's funny because Sister Hall told them that they should prioritize other investigators. Reed's eyebrows raise in mock offense, but Paxton assures him that she can tell he's a very spiritually curious person, just like Joseph Smith. She shares that Joseph Smith studied many different denominations. She rattles off a few and surmises that when none of them fit, that's why he founded their church. Reed smiles politely with his eyes darting between the two before jumping into the conversation. He points at them, imploring them to stop him when he's wrong. But if he remembers correctly, Joseph Smith was visited in the middle of the night by an angel named Moroni. Barnes and Paxton correct him in unison with a shared giggle. Moroni. Reed repeats the name correctly and gets up, walking over to an armoire and grabbing something from inside. In one of their interviews, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East said that they were doing these very dialogue-heavy scenes over and over and over. And she said that when you're doing something like that over and over again and you already know what you're supposed to say and what they're supposed to say, you can kind of start spacing out, kind of. And so Hugh Grant would change things around and improvise to keep them from mentally checking out. You always had to be on your toes. So they would constantly have to be locked in because they never knew when he was going to say something different or change something. And him mispronouncing Moroni was an example of this because that was not in the script.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's so funny. They're like, and sometimes we had to pay attention.
Imagine.
At work.
Reed continues that Moroni showed Joseph Smith where he could locate golden plates near his home, and his translation of those plates formed the basis of this. He sets down a large copy of the Book of Mormon, bookmarks and papers placed between the pages, marking apparent intense study. It thuds on the coffee table in front of the sisters.
To see so many notes, it is, fully annotated throughout.
Yeah.
I honestly, if I'm one of the sisters, I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't the conversation that we...
There's nothing I can tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You seem, and I am honestly starting to suspect that you know how to pronounce Moroni.
Yeah, no shit.
That's true.
Because this is wild.
Yeah, you know more than what you're letting on.
Right.
Beck and Woods had said that they kept messing around with how intense they wanted that thud to be. And they kept turning it up to where it would have like shaken the theater. And they were like, all right, that's,
Well, come on.
that's too much.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
But Paxton is amazed. She asserts that he reads more than they do. She declares, we should be more like you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed.
That's adorable.
They all share a laugh. Barnes suddenly gushes that the pie smells amazing, and Reed's smile wavers as his gaze shifts to her. Paxton asks, how has studying the Book of Mormon made him feel? But Reed has grasped onto what Barnes said instead. Rather than answering Paxton, he asks if they can guess what kind of pie his wife is making. Without missing a beat, Paxton takes a dramatic sniff and ventures, is it blueberry pie? Reed says that it is, and Barnes's uneasy expression breaks into a grin as Paxton says that she knew it. It's her favorite.
All right, we can stay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's blueberry?
Yeah.
Shit.
They got my ass.
Backtracking and his own expression going grave, Reed asks, if he may, how did Barnes's father pass away? It's so abrupt. Like, we're literally talking about pie.
Yeah.
And the mood is so jovial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Barnes stammers, and when Reed offers an apology, she responds quietly at the same time. Lou Gehrig's disease. Reed is like, blueberry disease? Paxton's cheery demeanor is lost as she looks woefully at Barnes, who still has a smile plastered on. Reed laughs that's wonderful. Who wouldn't want that? I've folded into myself. Like, this is so fucking uncomfortable and horrible. So Paxton corrects him. Lou Gehrig's disease. And Reed takes in a small gasp. Oh, that's awful. He apologizes. He just misheard. It's a terrible affliction, and he thought she was making a joke about the pie. He's sorry. Barnes doesn't reply, but her plastered smile speaks for itself. Reed asks if she's seen any sign of her father since he's passed. Has he tried to communicate from the other side? Finally dropping the fake smile, Barnes admits that he hasn't, and Reed decides, how strange.
This is obnoxious.
It's certainly taking a turn.
Yeah, I like, am I being haunted? Like, what are you talking about?
I feel like, honestly, this is too personal too soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The clock continues to tick, filling the extremely uncomfortable silence that follows. Barnes absently traces her thumb along a scar on the inside of her arm, and Reed's eyes linger on this for a second before he apologizes again. He's sorry for her loss and for the blueberry mix-up.
That blueberry mix-up, I think, is the kind of thing that my brain would remind me of every night.
God,
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Barnes smiles and assures him that it's okay, but her eyes are brimming with tears and she can't force the smile for more than a second. Paxton wrestles with this before sharing that when she dies, she wants to come back as a butterfly to follow around the people that she loves. And she'll land right on their hand, not their arm or their head, but right on their fingertip so that they'll know it's her. A little comforted, Barnes says that that's sweet. But suddenly, with a clang, all the lights in the house loudly shut off. Paxton and Barnes perk up, but Reed apologizes, unsurprised. It's a foible of the house. It does that.
What?
Huh?
Yeah.
And again, I believe him.
He's like, it's like totally no big deal. Lit now only by the lamps around them and the candle on the table in front of them, Reed takes out his glasses with their large 80s style frames and slides them onto his face, admitting that he can't even see them now. Hugh Grant specifically asked for these 80s frames for the glasses because he felt like that would have been Mr. Reed's heyday.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about his look, the costume designer, Betsy Hyman, said that the sweater, it's kind of like blocked out colors, you know? She said that it's supposed to harken to a checkerboard because he kind of has an affinity for board games.
I like that.
Yeah.
I did notice later he's wearing gray sneaks, which didn't match anything.
No.
Yeah.
I was like, this is an interesting outfit, but at least that makes sense.
Yeah.
At least. But Reed suddenly declares that it's time. And they ask, time for what? He says first, time for pie, before calling out, pie! And as Paxton and Barnes giggle uneasily, he adds that it's also time for enlightenment. I'm not as excited about it.
No.
I prefer the first.
Yeah.
And was that supposed to be for his wife? Because that's a little rude, too.
Pie!
Yeah.
It's your fucking
It's like
pie.
every meal is like this. It's like, God damn. Maybe I don't like Mr. Reed.
Indicating the drinks in front of them, he laments that he didn't offer them water. The word of wisdom forbids caffeine and alcohol, doesn't it? Barnes replies that it doesn't explicitly forbid soda, and while it may be healthier to avoid caffeinated drinks, they haven't drank because they're just not thirsty. Reed suddenly wonders how they feel about awkward questions. Paxton is like, the meme? Reed says no.
Okay, now we're going.
Yeah.
He wants to ask an awkward question, an icky question, an insensitive question that will add depth to their conversation very quickly before the sun goes down and they're done for the evening, but only if they're comfortable with it. Barnes counters that they won't know if they're comfortable with it until he asks it, so maybe he could just ask. Reed chuckles that that's a good point. He shifts his gaze to Paxton, who in her characteristic good nature admits that if he doesn't ask, she's going to leave and end up wondering what they missed out on. Reed gets ready to ask his question, but sighs, fearing that it's been too built up now. Should he request a drum roll? Yeah, he's going to request a drum roll. Paxton leans back into the couch and starts to slap a drum roll on her stomach, much to Reed's delight and encouragement.
That's never been where my drum rolls
I
happen.
don't know what's going on.
So it was a choice. It was an interesting choice.
It was.
Barnes is at least appearing a bit skeptical.
Yes.
And suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Paxton wants that baptism.
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
Finally, Reed asks his question. How do you feel about polygamy? When the sisters sit uneasily instead of immediately answering, Reed asks again. How do they feel about the concept of a man having multiple wives? Still leaned back in drumroll position, Paxton offers that it's not for her, but Barnes wonders if he's asking from a biblical perspective, and Reed clarifies. Mormonism has a controversial history with the misogynistic practice of polygamy, but he's fascinated by the idea of modern revelation, which was used to erase this from the church in 1890. He just thinks it's worthy of conversation. Barnes and Paxton both sit awkwardly, avoiding eye contact with him, so Reed continues to fill the silence. What he means is that they're talking about a church that decided a controversial practice was a stain on its reputation and a hindrance to recruiting new members. So they used revelation. The word of God told the prophets to abolish this because it became unsavory in contemporary times. Barnes takes this in and allows that it may be difficult to understand now, but at the time, polygamy was a spiritual mission necessary at the time to grow the ranks of their members during much hardship and bloodshed. She reasons that a man having plural wives meant more babies to grow the community. Reed is like, He looks over at Paxton for her input, but she can only offer, yeah, it's sketch for sure. Reed chuckles at this and takes a drink from his mug, bright blue with the word hubby written across in cursive.
Laying it on pretty thick.
Yeah.
So is he like trying to rage bait him, or?
I think that's maybe he kind of feels like a commenter on the internet.
Yeah.
So I honestly,
yeah, kind of.
like, have you heard of this thing from your church?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, we've of course heard of it.
Right.
It's our church.
Yes.
Yeah. But it feels very much like, what are you willing to
accept
or
Right.
Forgive?
explain
Yeah,
or
yeah.
forgive? Yeah. But Barnes stays on message, adding that it wasn't only removed from the church because it was grotesque or controversial, but also because it just wasn't necessary anymore. But what worries Reed, and forgive him for his loud language, but his worry is that Joseph Smith utilized the concept of polygamy to legitimize his affairs with other women.
So I did say he sounds like an internet commenter, like maybe a minute ago. But at the same time, it's like, also let him cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He worries that Joseph's wife, Emma Smith, was upset when he slept with their 16-year-old maid, Fanny Alger. And he worries that Joseph Smith, in that aftermath, developed this revelation to exploit for consequence-free sex. We've swirled around the three of them as they work this out, with Reed calmly asserting his worries, and Barnes and Paxton just out of focus on the couch, taking it in and resisting his steady gaze.
And his worry is not unfounded.
Yeah.
And to your question earlier, I think it's also a little bit of pushback. It's like you're attempting to convert me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He finishes the sentiment by quoting, "With great power comes great responsibility." Paxton perks up. That's Spider-Man. Reed corrects flatly, "Voltaire." And Paxton's like, right. And averts her gaze again. You're like, no, it's Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man.
Where we saw it first. But that's an interesting thing that's just presented in that moment.
Yes. He decides that what he's proposing is that polygamy never had any spiritual bearing. But Barnes balks at this. She thinks that's something of a distortion. But Reed argues that the church's own history both corroborates and implies this cynical brainwashing tactic. Even Barnes is like, is that true? but Paxton speaks up with an apology to Reed. She's not sure where he's getting this. Reed reasons that if revelation by God is filtered through man, and man is flawed, and man sins and lies, how do we know that any of it is true? Paxton is certain of this. We know it's true because of how it makes us feel. Reed claps his hands, cutting off the creeping crescendo of the uneasy score, and declares, bingo! She's exactly right, and he couldn't agree more. It's their personal relationship with God that matters. Barnes offers that they'll talk to their bishop about some of the points he's raised, but Reed is already on to the next question. What's their favorite fast food?
You're all over the place.
Yes,
Yeah. Barnes says tersely that she tries not to eat it, and Reed concedes that none of them try to, but we've all got a favorite. As Barnes contemplates, Paxton sits up and offers her own opinion, much more comfortable with this question than the previous one. I'm going to need T to get over himself.
I've already got several notes.
Burger King is better than Carl's Jr. When Barnes doesn't know what Carl's Jr. is, Paxton fills her in quickly. Hardee's on the East Coast. She starts again. Burger King is better than Hardee's, which is better than Rally's. Barnes is like, Rally's? Paxton amends, a little annoyed. Checkers! Reed chuckles, but Paxton presses on. Burger King is better than Hardee's, which is better than Checkers, which is better than Wendy's, which is better than In-N-Out, which is better than McDonald's, which is better than Jack in the Box, which is better than nothing.
Terrible taste. God awful, you could say.
Barnes protests that Jack in the Box serves breakfast all day, and Paxton squeals that she loves breakfast. But Reed is like, what about Taco Bell? Barnes replies gravely that they don't talk about Taco Bell. Reed wonders why they don't talk about Taco Bell, and Paxton reasons that they'd have to talk about Taco Bell to talk about why they don't talk about Taco Bell.
Did Tarantino write this?
Reed gets back to the point. So Burger King is number one. Barnes asserts that she thinks Burger King is trash.
New favorite character just dropped. Anti-sponsorship from Burger King.
Hey, shut your mouth.
I love Burger King.
I love Burger King.
Their breakfast is all right.
When she votes instead for Wendy's, Paxton decides that she can support that. Reed declares Wendy's the winner before admitting, I've never had a Wendy. He realizes that came out wrong, but Paxton and Barnes chuckle that that's okay.
If he can call a burger from Wendy's a Wendy, I think I can call a BAFTA a BAFTA.
That's true.
Or whatever, I don't know why he said it like that. If it was intentional, and he clears it up by being so charming.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like a really intentional but weird thing to say.
It feels very intentional, and it's almost like, what can I get away with?
Yes.
What are you going to let me say?
Yeah.
How far are you going to let me push this? That's what it feels like. And when they both kind of got quiet, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so charming. I didn't even mean it that way. And they're like, it's fine. You know what I mean? But it felt like Maroney. It felt like we're testing waters. We're dipping our toes in. Reed shares that when he started to study theology, the last thing he wanted to do was find the Wendy's of religions. He was just writing a paper for a college course and was content with dabbling. Some McNuggets here, a BK Whopper there, whatever fit the mood. But as he studied the genres of Mormonism, Scientology, Islam, Buddhism, as he got closer to God through genres and rigorous study, and as he worked on and strengthened his relationship with the Heavenly Father, do they know what he found? Reed lifts up the candle so that the light dances on his face, and when he receives no guess, he reveals what he found. The more you know, the less you know. He blows out the candle and sets it down. He admits that by the time he was 50, he was malnourished from digesting the fast food of religion for the best part of a decade. That line fucking ate, no pun intended.
Yeah, I literally wrote in my notes, this film is very well written.
Yes.
Just in that malnourished line.
Yeah.
Every sect, cult, creed, and denomination all claimed to be the one true doctrine. But when he held them up under a microscope, none of them seemed true at all. He contemplates this and says that he wondered what else was out there. He promises that the last thing he ever wanted to do was find the one true religion. And as we press in on his face, he admits that unfortunately, he did.
If you're gonna eat me, can you start at the ass, dude? Like, what are we doing? Like, what's
Best
happening?
meat's in the
Yeah,
rump.
That is a
what
wild,
does that mean?
wild request. I don't
you are gonna eat me, right?
so at
'Cause
least,
I think
at least thrill me before you kill me. I can't. I don't even know what I would do.
right, well, that's
to that.
Yeah, it's like, what? What does that mean?
The proposition is horrifying.
Yes.
but it shouldn't be.
But it is.
You know?
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah.
And again, it is this like Beck and Woods were saying, this fear in that certainty.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that is scary to be like, look, I'm here to tell you about my church. And somebody's like, no, I studied for a decade and I dabbled and I accidentally found the real. It's like, oh my God, I want to leave. Like, I'm equal parts interested in what you're going to say next and fucking terrified and would love to teleport back to my bike.
Not even to the church?
I'll ride back.
I have to ride back in the rain?
I've got some anxiety. I need to burn off. Paxton and Barnes shift uneasily on the couch across from him, and Barnes finally asks, "Can we meet your wife? Please?" Reed chuckles that of course they can, and Paxton adds that she just needs to be present, and they also want to meet her. Reed apologizes and says that he'll go ask. On his way out of the room, he twists a timer on the light switch, and the bulbs above them brighten once again. Reed walks into the darkness of the next room, his footsteps thudding as he retreats, pushing the creaking door behind him and leaving a gap for us to watch him leave. We glide across the living room, following his footsteps until he closes the door to another room. The timer clicks loudly, and we finally find Paxton and Barnes on the couch again. Paxton admits that she doesn't know about this, and Barnes agrees, keeping her eye on the wall separating them from Mr. Reed. She doesn't want to spook him, but they need to wrap this up. She asks if there's any messages, and after consulting the phone, Paxton says that there's nothing. Barnes lets loose a shaky sigh and decides that they'll just wrap this and head back. Paxton is like, just the highlights. But Barnes's eyes have settled on the candle on the table in front of them, smoke still curling from its extinguished wick. And the commitment, and I'm assuming the pressure to bring these people into the church.
Yes.
Even now when Barnes is like, let's wrap this up. She's like, yeah, just the highlights. Like, we'll just do it quick.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, no, none of it. Like,
No.
we need to fucking go.
We'll take our pie to go.
Yeah. They're bringing pie.
Yes. Those are my priorities.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're smelling this shit for
Yeah,
45
dude.
minutes.
You're teasing me.
Barnes grabs the candle's glass container and slowly spins it. We twist along with it, passing the bloated Book of Mormon and the sweating glasses of Coke. And when the front of the candle is revealed to Barnes, we see her gasp quietly before we read the scent ourselves. Blueberry pie. I'm throwing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Such a cool moment of cinematography.
Yeah.
Such a horrifying reveal.
Uh-huh.
And such a tragic moment that we're not getting.
Perhaps the biggest tragedy of all.
Nothing tops this for me.
They had said, too, that as a wrap gift, they gave everyone a personalized blueberry pie scented candle. And at the end of the credits, too, it's Blueberry Pie LLC. Like, yeah.
That's funny.
I love it.
The timer clicks loudly in Barnes's ears as the realization sinks in. But when the door opens and Reed enters the room, she's startled, but quickly plasters on her polite smile. Reed declares that she's finally ready. He offers another apology as he settles the tray back onto the table and sets the candle and the glasses of Coke on it. He invites them to come on, and Paxton and Barnes rise with him, pulling on their bags. He walks into the hall, and when Paxton starts to follow him into the shadows, Barnes grabs the back of her sweater to stop her. She calls out to Mr. Reed to just give them one moment. They're getting a call from the Relief Society president. Reed stands in the hall, offering them a minute. He'll just meet them on the other side. Reed disappears around the corner as Barnes presses the phone to her ear. They listen for the door to close behind him before Barnes asks in a whisper, "Should we leave?" Paxton answers immediately, "No," before they both decide, "Yes." We follow their feet as they walk to the front door, but just as Barnes reaches for the knob, she pauses as she realizes they're bikes. They're locked up out front. When Paxton doesn't understand, Barnes clarifies, her voice trembling as fear finds her. The key is in her coat pocket, and he has their coat. Paxton is like, "So we need our coats." But Barnes wonders, "I don't know. Do we?" Their voices still hushed. Paxton asks if they're going to walk back without their coats or their bikes, 2 miles? But Barnes thinks it was actually 4. Paxton offers that that's a little over the top, but Barnes declares that she's fine to walk. In agreement, Paxton steps to the door and turns the knob, but it doesn't open. She kneels down and inspects it, reporting that there's no lock. She turns and pulls with both hands before stepping to the side and letting Barnes try. She wrestles with the door, grunting softly as the knob rattles under her attempts. But when Paxton hears the thudding of distant footsteps, she shushes her friend. They stand, facing the shadows in the hallway as Mr. Reed's footsteps continue. Barnes wonders if he's still there, but Paxton recalls watching him leave. Barnes is like, "Are you sure?" Paxton wonders if they should ask him for help, but Barnes is decisive. "No!"
He's who we're trying to get over.
Yeah.
Will you help us flee from you real quick and put our pies together?
Yeah.
She still doesn't
We're
get it.
still holding out hope.
For the pie.
Yes. He just really likes blueberry pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very happy them deciding to leave.
Yes.
Because again, I'll take a cold over whatever the fuck he's not giving us pie. He might, we got a 50% chance. He might eat us. He might not. We don't know.
It's very, because nothing has outright happened
Right.
yet.
No.
But it's that feeling of like, I'm somewhere where I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And it is like you said, so refreshing to see them be like, "No, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. We're not going to give anything an opportunity to happen."
That was one thing that Messina had said, the production designer, that was part of what they thought about when designing this house, is all the reasons that would kind of prevent their exit.
Okay.
Because he wanted a lot of moments where there were these characters being very smart, but things that are not allowing them to be smart.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the audience doesn't even have a chance to say, "Hey, get the fuck out of here."
Yeah.
They're already trying
They're
and they
trying.
can't.
Yeah.
Barnes hurries to the tiny hexagonal window and asks if Paxton thinks they can fit through. Paxton's like, "Are you crazy?" But Barnes peers through the glass at the intensifying storm outside the house and tells her to just try Sister Hall again. Or Elder Kennedy even. Someone needs to know where they are. As Paxton raises the phone to her ear, Barnes looks through one of the slim windows lined up on the wall, noting the snow that's beginning to fall. Paxton calls out to her that the call isn't going through, and Barnes asserts that it's just the storm. She needs to keep trying. Paxton tries to place the call again, but the phone beeps in her ear. Barnes goes back to the door and tries to force it open again, but we watch from outside the house, amidst the swirling snow when the door doesn't even budge. Barnes's breath comes in shudders, and she steadies herself before returning to Paxton and deciding that they have to ask for help. Paxton agrees that it'll be fine, despite the stricken expression on her face. Just then, the timer runs out on the light, and they are cast in darkness once again. Barnes twists the switch, but the lights don't come back on.
Do we barricade ourselves in this living room? I know. It's just the light's off. It's not coming back on. I'm scared. The windows are small. I can't open the door. There's no pie?
Apparently not. It's fucking outrageous. But honestly, I don't trust him anymore.
No.
Right.
I don't trust him enough to continue down the scariest hallway I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like, this, so far, we know that this room is pretty okay.
Yeah.
It smells like blueberry pie. The window
I'm
is
starving.
useless. Yes, I need to take the sodas away too. So
Yeah.
okay, maybe we do have to go ask him for help.
Huddled together, Barnes and Paxton start down the shadowy hallway, but when they see someone standing at the end of the hall, silhouetted darkly against a soft orange light, they stop in their tracks. Tentatively, they call out to Mr. Reed, but the figure at the end of the hall doesn't move. Barnes steps forward, bravely leading the way despite her fear, and it's not until they get closer that they realize it's just a statue staring forward blindly. Barnes breathes a sigh of relief, and Paxton can't help but giggle at the reveal, but they still press forward, and with a trembling hand, Barnes grasps the knob for the door at the end of the hall. When she twists it this time, the door opens. They're met with the sound of Just Like a Butterfly That's Caught in the Rain, performed by the Ipana Troubadours playing from a record player.
So that's about 3 butterflies now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is Mr. Reed's library, and Sisters Paxton and Barnes stand in a moment of awe, their gaze sweeping over the room. They take in the shelves of books, the pews set up facing the front of the room, the angular turquoise-colored walls, the low table at the front of the room positioned at its center, flanked on either side by a door, one painted a deep green and the other a rich purple.
The beams that are on the walls, I think that's what you would call them, the way that they are constructed geometrically, the production designer said that it was meant to call to mind a spider web.
Okay.
Which is...
That fits with something that I inferred later. Mr. Reed greets them with a smile as he walks over, carrying a wooden crate. Barnes snaps into action. With a smile, she thanks him for how generous he's been with his time and what a pleasure it's been for her and Sister Paxton. But they just got a call from Sister Hall, and she needs them to return to the church. Reed groans in disappointment, but says that he won't keep them if they wish to leave. Going along with the story, Paxton shrugs that they've been summoned back, and Reed grimaces. Damn it, they were just getting started. And he was starting to think that they were maybe onto something. Barnes spots their coat slung over the back of one of the pews before turning her eyes to Reed, who admits that he's been impressed, but he understands. A leak drips steadily from the ceiling as Reed points them to their coats and excuses himself with his crate. The music continues, and Barnes and Paxton walk measuredly over to their coats and pull them on. As Reed busies himself at one of the shelves, we see that the steady leak is dripping down onto a shishi odoshi, those Japanese bamboo garden decorations that fill with water and then release it with a loud but satisfying clack.
I love it.
Yes.
But it oddly, as calming as it's meant to be, it adds a layer of suspense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Barnes takes her name tag off of her shirt and slips it into her coat pocket, but a look of confusion crosses her face when she plunges her hand into her other pocket and finds it empty. She looks at Paxton and mouths, "The key." She turns her pocket inside out. Paxton digs into her own pocket and pulls out the red key for the bike lock. They look at each other with worry before Barnes calls out to Reed. They just need his help with the door because it's a bit tricky. When Reed doesn't understand, Paxton clarifies that his door is a bit stuck out there. Reed corrects her matter-of-factly. It won't open. The front door won't open again. Barnes and Paxton stare at him, and Barnes offers with a nervous chuckle that it opened when they came in. Paxton asks if he can just unlock it, but Reed reiterates that he knows what they're asking him, but the deadbolts are on a timer, and he got carried away with their conversation. He didn't realize that the brace had been set. He should have pulled the pin when they came in, but he forgot. So if they really are ready to leave, they'll have to exit through the back of his house.
Okay, he's using a lot of technical terms that I flat out do not understand.
Pull the pin!
It's a grenade now. I don't understand what kind of a system this is, and even presenting it to people that it doesn't sound. How could it not sound absolutely terrifying, like you're intentionally keeping us here?
Yeah, a timer?
What is that?
Like if I'm still here after this time, I'm fucked.
Yes. Yeah. Whose house works like this?
Well, you can go out the back door.
Oh.
I don't want to go out the back door.
No, that's not the way we came in.
No.
Reed motions toward the wall housing the green and purple doors. When Paxton asks where, he gestures vaguely. Just through there. Barnes asks if he can just unlock the front door because they would like to go that way. Trying her best not to blow their cover, Paxton adds with a trembling smile that it's just so they don't get turned around and confused when they get out there. But Reed is like, Yeah, it won't open again till morning. He looks up at them sheepishly as the record reaches its end. With nothing else, Paxton is like, "Please, sir?" But Reed gestures to the wall again, assuring her, promising her that it's safe to leave this way. Barnes swallows before broaching that it's a little unusual to have a door that locks on a timer, and Reed admits that he sees that. Barnes continues that it's also a little unusual that it can't be unlocked. Paxton stares at Reed, her facade broken and her face stricken, and Reed allows that he is self-aware enough to know how this must look. An older man and two young women in a house, but they're welcome to leave through the back. He reminds them that they saw the outside of his house. They know it's a tiny footprint. The back of the house is just there. Barnes and Paxton stand quietly, and Reed offers to give them space to make their decision. He starts to walk back over to the shelves, but he stops. He just wants to clarify. He's been trying very hard to make it a point not to pressure them, so they shouldn't even feel the need to fabricate a story about someone from their ward calling them to leave. It's all perfectly fine. They can leave whenever they want.
Oh.
Yeah. Then let's just go sit in the living room until morning.
Yes. Honestly, dude, I don't need to be investigating or going.
You don't go to
deeper.
a second location.
Yeah, you
No.
beat me. I don't know enough about religion. Let's just go sit over there.
Yes,
I'm fine.
We'll baptize someone else.
Yeah, we're okay.
Barnes doubles down that it wasn't just an excuse. They do need them back. And Reed knows. But they said they took a call with someone from their ward. Paxton agrees that they did a moment ago. But Reed reminds them that when they came in, he asked them if they were okay with the metal in the walls and ceilings. Barnes doesn't understand, so Reed explains. The metal obstructs cell phone signals, so he knows they didn't take the call. But just to be clear and make sure they're comfortable, they really are free to leave of their own accord. They never need to feel like they have to make excuses and tell little white lies. With their story blown wide open, Paxton and Barnes offer no further arguments. I'm like, fuck,
Yeah.
the metal in the walls. He did.
He did.
Barnes just asks which of these doors will take them outside. Reed stands between them and chuckles. Does she have a preference? Barnes wonders why she would have a preference, but Paxton asks, should they have a preference? And Reed commends that that's a good question. I'm stressed.
I know.
Desperately, Paxton reasons that she's not trying to be completely weird, but is there any way his wife could come in, say hello, and then escort them out the back of the house? She's not trying to be silly, but there are rules that they have to follow, and they were very upfront with them. Reed sighs and smiles that he'll ask. He starts toward the green door, but he turns around to face them again. He wants to ask them a question first. We pan across the bookshelves lining the wall between them and settle on Paxton and Barnes when he asks, "Do you still believe that my wife is in the next room? Despite all evidence to the contrary, that scented candle, the absence of an oven containing blueberry pie, or have they been politely indulging his lie?"
This is the moment I also realized that it was just a straight hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no detour to a kitchen.
Yeah.
Period.
As the dripping ceiling continues to fill the Shishiodoshi, Reed offers that if they really still believe she's in there, he'll go ask her. But it's something that he wants them to think about, and maybe think about it in the context of their beliefs.
I don't know.
And again, his methods are wild, but his argument, he's making excellent points. They believe something that they have no evidence of, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Only-
his wife, it's the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about his wife.
Oh no.
I mean, it's all, but it all, it all feeds
Cut that,
into,
cut that.
it all feeds into that as well, because it is something that you have to take. It's a matter of faith.
Right. It again though, it's like what are we gonna do? What are we running into here?
Yes.
Yeah. But Reed posits, do they believe in God because someone told them that he was real at an impressionable age? They believe despite having doubts as they got older, despite seeing evidence to the contrary over their lives? He addresses Barnes. When her father lost control of his body, did she take it as God's plan to ruin his life? Or did she continue to believe in something that she knew wasn't true to give her comfort because she was afraid of what it might mean if it was all just a lie? He reveals that he put that scented candle on the table because he really wanted them to think about the things that they believe just because someone told them to believe them. Trying to keep her calm despite the turning conversation, Barnes politely asks if they can use his phone, but Reed shares that he doesn't have a telephone.
I just don't understand this house.
It is a maze.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, everything that you would expect, like a door with a lock,
An oven.
an oven, a house with the phone, all of these
Nothing.
things. It's like, part of me is like, do you actually even live here?
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this just like a labyrinth that you've crafted for this purpose?
Yeah.
Paxton offers that he has a very beautiful home. It's like a church in here. She wonders if he built it himself. Reed looks around the room admiringly before answering, "My wife built it."
Shut the
I
fuck
know.
up.
Come on, man.
Now you're just...
To punctuate this, the Shishio-doshi dumps the water. Clack. You're taking the piss, mate.
Careful.
Barnes declares that they're going to leave through the back of the house. Is that okay? Reed says, of course. Barnes reminds him, just like he said, it's okay that they leave. Reed repeats, of course. Paxton follows fearfully, stepping slowly in her Mary Jane's and sliding her hands along the pew, gripping the end of it and staying put as Barnes approaches the green door. She grips the handle and pushes the door open. Barnes stares inside quietly. Paxton asks, "What is it?" Reed watches her, expressionless. A tear rolls down Barnes's face as she closes the door without a reply. Her breath shuddering, she walks instead to the purple door, ignoring Paxton when she calls out to her. Reed turns to watch her progress, and when Barnes opens the purple door, Paxton joins her by her side. It swings open, and as we glide down a steep and dark flight of steps, Paxton realizes in a whisper, that's a basement.
We're fucked.
What do you even...
I don't even know.
Yeah, that's not stairs outside.
No.
Yeah, and Barnes agrees that it doesn't look like it goes outside. This is... Because it's like you see her reaction when she opens the other door, and you're like, God damn it, what is it?
Yeah.
And then you realize there are few things that could have been scarier.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Because what's happening down there? Nothing good. Nothing good.
No.
The storm rages outside, obscuring our view of the side of the mountain as the howling wind carries the snow. But inside a church, we press in on a name tag clipped to a suit jacket. Elder Kennedy, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. After taking a long look at a framed portrait of Joseph Smith, the elder walks the pews of the empty church. He mops the floor. It isn't until he hears the gusting wind outside and peers through the pulled drapes out into the storm that we see his face beneath his graying hair and black framed glasses. Elder Kennedy, played by Topher Grace.
How surprising.
I know.
It was a few scenes later until I was like, is that fucking Topher Grace? I didn't even recognize him.
I didn't recognize him until you told me. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, it is.
It's clearly him.
Yeah. Topher Grace, he was in the 70s show. He did Interstellar in 2014, Black Klansman in 2018, and Spider-Man 3 in 07.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's just wild, especially with what we see from him in this film.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so strategic, and I will share my opinions later.
Okay.
Okay.
It is interesting, just as a sidebar, the only connotation I have with Topher Grace and the church is when he prayed for God to kill Spider-Man.
He did. He did do that.
It's such a wild thing.
He was struggling.
It's funny too because we quoted Spider-Man earlier in the film.
Right.
So I feel like this is in the universe. Sam Raimi's in here somewhere.
This is what Eddie Brock did after, I guess.
But he wheels the mop into the bathroom and washes his hands. His eyes linger on the sign-in sheet on the wall. He travels down the repeating names. Sisters Paxton and Barnes were reporting in strictly at 5 p.m. on November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. But on the 8th, nothing. Elder Kennedy takes this in. Back in Mr. Reed's library/church, he offers that he can tell they're regrettably uncomfortable with their situation here tonight. Barnes still stands next to the purple door, but Paxton has walked back to the green one. She opens it and looks inside with tearful eyes. Reed apologizes, but reminds them that just a moment ago, they said they saw the outside of his house. They must have clearly seen that the back of his house overhangs a hill. So they'll have to go dune in order to get out. It's like, stop being cute.
Yeah.
Reed chuckles to himself, but Paxton is using the light from her cell phone to look at what lies behind the green door, and she begins to cry when she finds an identical steep and dark flight of steps. She closes the door.
I think that's one thing that is really successful in his performance, and maybe also the way that it's written, is that he is acknowledging that it is a little strange.
Yeah.
But he's so charming that he's trying to, I don't know, it's just the way that he is playing this character. You almost forget sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But it really serves this point of like, are you going to believe what I'm telling you? Even if I'm saying it's sweet, or are you going to believe what you're seeing?
That's what I was going to say. It's the way, like, even him, because earlier he was like, you seen it was a tiny footprint. Now it's you seen it's hanging over a cliff.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
It's like, what? And we never saw the bat.
No.
Ever.
No.
Like, so.
Yeah, we didn't.
No.
Yeah.
And it's also about pleasantries and trying to stay as far as like social interaction is concerned.
Yeah.
Because when he asked, they were like, yeah, of course we've seen.
Yeah.
And they hadn't.
Yeah.
And it was the same. Are you guys okay with all the metal in the walls?
Yeah.
We love
like, yes,
metal in the walls.
It's our favorite
I loved
thing. So it's, interesting.
Despite tears standing in her own eyes, Barnes reasons that it would really be best for all of them if he could help her and Paxton out of his house. The stake president and the ward missionaries all know where they are, and they'll be expecting them. Paxton's like, oh, there were witnesses too, right, Sister Barnes? On the way here, they passed that police officer. Rita's like, whoa, the police. He promises that they're getting way, way, way too worked up. Barnes's voice shakes as she agrees, but she thinks that they're just scared because he lied to them earlier. Reed asks if they want him to help, and Paxton and Barnes exchange an uneasy glance. Reed recalls that they asked him earlier if they should have a preference between the two doors, and he thinks they should. He thinks it's something that they should consider very carefully and then make the right decision. He asks again, do you want me to help you? Barnes pauses for a moment before confirming. Yes. He slides on his glasses and invites them both to come stand here, where he stands between the pews. Barnes follows instruction, and Reed takes her place at the purple door, closing it as he reasons that it's a simple choice, but it should not be made simply. Paxton walks over to Barnes slowly, catching a glimpse of a sharp letter opener sitting innocently on the floor atop a stack of mail. She notes this as the tense music rises, but she does nothing. Standing behind that squat table between the two doors, his makeshift pulpit, Mr. Reed instructs them to reflect very, very deeply and then make a sincere decision. As Mr. Reed reaches behind the table, the music crescendos, but it dies when he presents them with a vintage Monopoly box.
You just wanted to play a game?
That's fine.
That's totally fine.
Why the fuck didn't you say that earlier?
Yeah, dude.
You did all this bullshit just to get us over here all scared. Show us your scary ass basement.
Yeah.
Like,
He's like, so who wants to be the car?
yeah.
Barnes and Paxton eye this with distaste and confusion, and Reed asks if they've ever played the Parker Brothers game, Monopoly. He grins as he sets the box down, but while he paces measuredly to his shelves, the lecture begins. He informs them that Monopoly is currently published in 47 languages and sold in over 114 countries. He takes out a record and starts it on the player. The opening twang of The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies begins to play from the speakers. A bead of sweat has gathered on the side of Paxton's forehead, and her eyes are wide and wet when she glances worriedly to a purple curtain at the end of the room, where something or someone appears to be standing with the curtain draped over.
The most hopeful interpretation is that that's his wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
but why be covered like that?
She loves it.
I guess.
Reed selects a book from one of the shelves and returns, continuing his spiel that it said over 1 billion people have played Monopoly, but he guesses only a fraction of that billion have actually finished it. He sets the Holy Bible down on the table next to the Monopoly box, wondering if that might remind them of something. He throws his hands up that it's just a thought.
Again, you gotta let him go.
Yeah.
He opens the Monopoly box, revealing its familiar board. He says that this is what most people think of when they think of Monopoly, with its pewter avatars. Everyone has their favorite, though he shall not tell them his. Meow. And the meow was improvised.
Oh, I'm sure.
He points out the pastel money, the jail. He tells them that this next part is very important. Have either of them ever played the 1904 board game, The Landlord's Game? He sets this down on the table, displaying it above the Monopoly box. He informs them that it's nearly identical to Monopoly in every way that matters. He opens the box, revealing the colorful board, pointing out the jail, the free parking, detailing the fines and fees, the penalties for landing on other people's properties. The ultimate goal is to form monopolies to force everyone else out of the game. Barnes speaks up against the music and asks what these games have to do with them leaving. Reed fixes her with a strict stare when he answers, everything. He goes back to his presentation. The Landlord's Game was invented by American feminist Elizabeth Magee nearly 3 decades before a Philadelphia, Sister Barnes, heater salesman Charles Darrow changed the name to Monopoly and sold it as his own to Parker Brothers in 1935. He went on to become the world's first millionaire games designer, and poor old Elizabeth Magee died without ever being credited for her impact on American culture. The Air That I Breathe ends on a fading note as Reed steps out from behind the table. He explains that he's talking to them about iterations. He needs them to have a basic understanding of iterating because tonight he's going to make a very disturbing claim.
I believe you.
Yeah. We press in on Barnes's trembling lips, Paxton's throat as she takes a nervous gulp. Reed warns that it's going to make their stomachs sink a little and their hearts beat faster. It'll make them sick. It may even, and he's very sorry, but it may even make them want to die. He winces at his own assessment before briskly walking away and disappearing into the shelves again to drop the needle back down on the Hollies, The Air That I Breathe. As the opening twang rings out again, Paxton takes the phone out of her pocket, types something, and presents it to Barnes sneakily. Barnes reads it. Run? She shakes her head.
Where?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Paxton slips the phone back into her pocket, and Reed pops out from the shelves. He asks if they've ever heard this song before. Her eyes still full of tears. Paxton is trembling when she reminds him that he just played it. Reed chuckles. No, he means before tonight. They both shake their heads, but Reed disagrees. He thinks that they've both heard it many, many times before, but he assures them that they'll come back to that. Taking his place back behind the table, he asks if they are or are not monotheistic. Barnes is shaking when she nods, confirming that yes, they believe in Heavenly Father. We get an overview of the top of the table. Tall candles in golden holders preside at the two front corners, one of them with a box of matches next to it. The Bible is still set next to Monopoly. The landlord's game is over Monopoly, and Mr. Reed unfurls a tapestry on the other side of the Bible with 3 distinct symbols. From top to bottom, the Star of David, the cross, and the crescent moon and star. He cites these as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and he calls them the Big Three. He sets the Torah between the top segment of the tapestry and the landlord's game. He declares Judaism as the original edition, Christianity represented by Monopoly, the most popular edition. And finally, he sets the Quran next to the symbol for Islam, the newer, second most popular edition. To represent this, he sets down a version of Monopoly Ultimate Banking, where Mr. Monopoly thrusts a credit card at the players. Adjusting his glasses, he asks to please see their Book of Mormon. Paxton steps forward slowly, reaching into her bag and pulling out the book. Reed thanks her as he takes it. He announces that finally, after 800 years, this. He sets the Book of Mormon on top of the Bible, citing Mormonism, the zany regional spin-off edition. He places the Bob Ross edition of Monopoly on top of the vintage box of the original game. We linger on Bob Ross's smiling face as the Hollies continues to play. May he rest in peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's got to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty disrespectful. Reed looks up at Barnes and Paxton, pleased with himself. He declares that these are all iterations of the same source material. Sweeping his hand over the games, the books, the tapestry, he maintains that these texts share many of the same characters and history, just presented with different meaning and perspective. Chuckling, he declares that because of this, no, he will not accept that they claim to never have heard The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies, when he knows that they've certainly heard Creep by Radiohead. Barnes and Paxton shake their heads slightly, but Reed assures them that they have. To prove it, he even sings a little bit of the chorus, chuckling when he asserts, "What the hell am I doing here?" As Barnes and Paxton start to nod, he acknowledges that he knows that these are things that they're thinking right now, but they're also lyrics that they recognize.
That is so good.
It is.
That's wild.
I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just such good writing.
Be like, fuck you, man.
Right.
Goddamn.
You're having too much fun.
Yeah.
Once he has their buy-in, he informs them that the Hollies followed a plagiarism suit against Radiohead, which was later settled by proving that the melody and rhythm of The Air That I Breathe appear in Creep. He asks their ages, estimating them at 19 or 20, and Paxton and Barnes nod, their faces still contorted in confusion. With their ages established, he assumes that they've heard of Lana Del Rey, who would go on to be sued by Radiohead for plagiarizing Creep with her 2017 song Get Free. He sums it up to further his point. Iterations over time, diluting the message and obscuring the original.
I get his point, but I think it was the publishing company that I don't think it was actually. But
I figured he'd have some things to say.
let's and even Radiohead doesn't like Creep, just for the record.
He walks back to the table, describing Judaism as the OG monotheistic religion that should have the most number of practicing members by far, but it only makes up 0.2% of the population. Using the matches, Reed lights one of the candles, and as he strides to the other to light it, he questions, why is that? Why is the original less popular than the iteration? Is it less true? As he brings the flame to the candle's waiting wick, Barnes asks for clarification. Are they talking about religion or board games or music? Reed answers her question. Yes. Then he answers his own. It has the fewest members because it doesn't advertise. It doesn't have people like Barnes and Paxton knocking on doors and selling people a better life, a better board game, a better song. As we twirl around Barnes and Paxton and center Reed standing at his table, he questions if they ever think about that. Do they ever think that missionaries are just salespeople for an organization? We continue to swirl, losing Mr. Reed and gliding past the sisters' frightened faces again. Reed asserts that they're selling an idea. They knock on the door and maybe he buys and maybe he doesn't. But there are rules of engagement when he invites them into his house. They're negotiating a transaction of ideologies. We linger on Barnes, her eyelids fluttering as she tries her best to maintain her composure. Reed shares that what he's trying to say is that he has an idea that he would like to sell them. The Hollies declare once more, "All I need is the air that I breathe and to love you." But everything goes silent and dark when Mr. Reed hits a switch, killing the electricity. That figure is still draped beneath the curtain, and in the new darkness, Paxton's eyes flit to it immediately. But the sisters' attention is drawn to the front of the room, though, when Mr. Reed flips on a projector and an image of Jesus Christ appears. He throws his forgiving arms open wide, the sun a bright halo behind his head, as his followers kneel and adore him with their hands clasped. But we pull away from this and go instead to the blustery night outside. After a brief overlook of the city, we are at the gates of the church, where the pamphlets stuck to the gate blow in the harsh wind. Elder Kennedy steps outside, securing his scarf around his neck, and a tense score follows as he walks down the cold street. But in the library, Mr. Reed is clicking through biblical images on his projector. He provides his argument. The texts that we all revere are just mythological iterations of stories which ancient people have been telling for centuries. Paxton is still eyeing the draped figure fearfully, and as Elder Kennedy braves the weather and makes his way through the falling snow, Reed asserts that these stories aren't true or real in any literal sense. They're merely a conduit for a more ancient truth. The dark curtain finally raises to reveal the figure beneath to be nothing more than another sculpture. Meanwhile, Elder Kennedy knocks on a glass door where a couple, played by Anisha Bailey and Miguel Castillo, are inside folding laundry. When they spy Kennedy through the door, they exchange a confused look. Pacing in front of the projected image now, Reed details that the story of a savior born to a virgin who could perform miracles and was supernaturally resurrected was a very popular story for at least 1,000 years before Jesus was born. We glide over framed photos on Reed's wall of biblical and ancient deities. The projector clicks. Addressing the couple now, Kennedy offers that one of them has blonde hair and one's brunette, and they're both dressed similarly. The woman shakes her head and says that they never stopped by. Kennedy's eyes drop as he nods. A light illuminates a framed depiction of Mithras subduing a wild animal in Reed's library. Reed declares that he performed miracles. He was marked by the sign of the cross. Another light shines on a depiction of Horus with his bird head. Reed says that he walked on water, had 12 disciples, and was crucified. A light reveals a colorful portrait of Krishna, who Reed shares was a carpenter, born to a virgin, baptized in a river, rose from the dead, and ascended to heaven. With the click of the remote in Reed's hand, the two sconces on the gallery wall turn on, revealing the rest of the pictures in their ornate gold frames. Reed shares that these depict 12 gods who were all born on December 25th, all of whom predate the existence of Jesus. He apologizes, but declares that it is impossible to ignore the influence of one narrative upon another, or to ignore the fact that all of these stories iterate into... The tense score climbs, but dies when Reed reveals Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Okay, and this is not where I thought.
Not at all. He asks if they can imagine 1,000 years from now, people accepting Jar Jar as a significant religious figure. Paxton begs his pardon, and Reed is like, Jar Jar Binks. He even does an imitation, settling once and for all that Jar Jar is indeed the key to all of this.
We've always known.
We always knew.
Yes.
The impression killed me.
Yeah, it's so funny because nobody reacts, and he's like, all right.
Yeah, moving on. Well, you're not the audience for it really right now. But again, everything that he's saying, you can pick and choose with the accuracy of each and everything, bit by bit. But there is the idea of iterations. It is absolutely true.
For sure. Yeah.
And it echoes throughout a lot of these stories from ancient
Mm-hmm.
religions to modern day.
Yeah.
And at the very least, it is very interesting.
It is, for
It
sure.
is.
I'm trying to remember what it was that I read because I think it was a British lit class. I can't remember if it was Odysseus. I can't remember what it was, but she was teaching us about the hero's journey, and it's an arc that is repeated.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I couldn't unsee it once it was like, then this happens to him. Then this happens to him. Then he meets this kind of character. Then and it's like, oh, that's fucking Harry Potter. That's Lord of the Rings. That's fucking like, it was like, it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it reminded me of here, where it's like, God damn, that is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Well, it's because the pattern that you follow, it's proven
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that it's worked in the past.
Yeah. But again, when they don't get his reference, he dismisses it. Never mind. He twists the timer of the lights and the room goes bright again. Adjusting his glasses, he concedes that it is all very terrifying and he's sorry. It is all... He takes his place back behind the table, but he pauses when he sees one of the candle flames flickering. It draws his full attention and his thought is abandoned as he leans in and glides his finger over the flame. He finally stands and finishes the thought. Scary. He admits that he's scared. He's scared just saying it out loud, really. He walks over to the dark green door, and the score goes dark as he writes a word across it in yellow chalk. Belief. He declares that if God is real, and he watches them masturbate, and has such a fragile ego that he only helps when we beg him and shower him with praise, if he hates gay people for being the way he made them to be, well, that's terrifying. He strides over to the purple door and writes another word, big and yellow, disbelief. He counters that if there's no God and we're just horny microscopic ants floating on a rock through space with no divine purpose and no hope to achieve eternal life, well, that's terrifying too. He goes to a small shelf in the pointy corner of the room and reads a quote from a paper with his back to Paxton and Barnes. Either the church is true or it is a fraud. It is the church and kingdom of God, or it is nothing. He turns and asks if they agree with that. When they don't answer, he wonders if it would help if he told them that this quote was from Gordon B. Hinckley, the 15th president of their church. Do they agree with Gordon? Paxton and Barnes answer in the affirmative and read reasons that he thought they might.
That's a little tough the way that he presented that.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to do that.
No.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay. You can eat me now if you want. I'm all right.
I
with
want
it
to
now.
get out of
yeah,
this
that's
conversation.
fine.
And we're already here.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going anywhere.
Where are we running? We had our
Yeah.
chance.
And when you talk about iterations, it reminds me, I can't remember if it's... So I've seen it from Arthur Clarke, but also attributed to Carl Sagan. That quote, either we're alone in the universe or we're not, both are equally
Yes.
terrifying.
Yeah.
And I know that's talking about the cosmos, but it's still here. It's this
Yeah.
moment right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Reed asks for clarification. Either it is all true or none of it's true. And they agree. Reed blows out one of the candles, the one closer to the belief door, and reveals that he wants them to choose which of the doors to go through based on their faith. Paxton asks if he's asking them to deliberate their belief in the church, and Barnes adds her own question. Is it a factor that will correspond with them going home? But Reed just repeats that he is asking them to choose between belief, we linger on the green door, and disbelief, we linger on the purple door. Barnes's eyes dart between the two, and Reed asserts that his own claim is that all 10,000 verifiable religions that exist in the world today are as artificial as the symbolic church that they are currently standing in. It is farce. He declares that there is nothing holy here. He picks up the Book of Mormon, declaring that it is mere ornament, and he tosses it across the room. It falls to the floor in front of the sisters, Paxton's careful notes spilling out. Reed continues that it's as hollow and as capitalistic as these ridiculous games. He swipes all of the board games off the table and onto the floor where they clatter. The box of matches falls with them. Reed walks away to drink from his tumbler, tall and bright blue, with the word hubby written across it in cursive.
Yeah, I imagine he's very thirsty after this.
Yeah.
Because goddamn, this sequence to me is the film.
Yeah. I totally agree.
And I think it's hard to top what we've just seen in performance, in the way that it's shot, in the way that it's done, the concepts presented.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you do better than that. And they kind of set themselves up, unfortunately.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
Woods and Beck had said that they wrote like 100 different versions of this monologue because they were positive that Monopoly would never let them use their boards for a movie like this, and that Radiohead would never let them air out their dirty laundry, but it all ended up working out.
Okay.
And I think it's such again, you talk about starting a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about putting things in that's why it's like it gives College Professor to me, because it breaks it down into such an accessible way of like these huge religions that carry so much weight and importance for people, and you know, people build their lives around, and you're diluting it into this one's Monopoly, this one, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? Like just to make it digestible. But it's like, I don't know, I'm a metaphor girly, I'm an analogy girly. Mm-hmm. I just really appreciated the writing of it and how he is dismissive. He is a little I mean, it's disrespectful.
It is.
To a pretty intense degree, but the way that he's presenting it at first, it's like, oh damn, dude, like I never thought of any of this in those terms. I never looked at it like that.
But I feel like the way that it starts, it doesn't start that way.
Yeah.
Because it is this thing that is incredibly accessible with these very large concepts. Mm-hmm. And then maybe towards the end, he does say some stuff.
It's a little flippant.
And again, it's not anything that he's saying that you could be like, it's really, you're only really going to be offended by it if he's struck a nerve.
Right.
If he's maybe said something that maybe doesn't exactly line up with how you feel.
Yeah.
And so it's a very, and especially when it comes to the writing, it's a very delicate balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, that's when the conversation comes in. When
Yes.
you're like,
Yes.
oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
a little uncomfortable because
It's
I
a
never
little
fucking
close
thought.
to home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They also said too that it was a challenge. They said that the challenge of writing A Quiet Place was writing without dialogue, and that this was the exact opposite, using dialogue as a vessel for being scary instead of jump scares.
Right.
It was challenging to write A Quiet Place.
Wow.
Sorry. Sorry. I didn't. They're both excellent writers. They really, really are.
Barnes drops to the floor to collect the Book of Mormon and the pieces of paper lost from it, but her eyes linger on the sharp letter opener atop Mr. Reed's mail. As she stands, she tells Reed that she wants to know what's going to happen to them before they choose. But Reed says that he doesn't even know how to begin to answer that question if it hasn't happened yet. Paxton is like, wow, Mr. Reed. She says that he's introduced a lot of really interesting points, and she and Barnes can both admit that he's a very smart man, and they still have a lot to learn. So with that, she'll agree that he's convinced them, and they want to leave through the disbelief door and go home now.
This is really doing what she thinks he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Which you can totally see why she would think he wants to hear that.
Right.
But at the same time, is that really what he wants?
Right.
Well, I'm sure it's a panic move.
For
You know what I mean?
sure.
To try to appeal?
You want us to like not believe. Okay, dude, we don't believe.
Yes.
Just let us go.
Absolutely. She walks over to the purple door and is like, right, Sister Barnes? But Barnes is walking to the green door, the belief door. As Reed takes his place in the center of the pews to watch, Paxton continues to call out to her, offering with a strained voice that she thinks they should listen to their super smart host and choose the right door. The right, like they taught them in primary. But Barnes continues that it doesn't matter what Paxton says to him. He's not going to let them go just because they admit he's right. Reed continues to sip from his cup, watching as Paxton says that they should just get out of here while their host is still gracious enough to let them leave. It is funny that he really is just recharging. Like,
Yeah.
Dropping her voice into a futile whisper, Barnes admits that she thinks they're being studied. Reed wants to learn something about them based on which door they open. Paxton shakes her head as tears well in her eyes. But Barnes focuses her attention on Reed and asks, is that the game? If someone scratches their neck, he watches. If they say the wrong thing, he stumbles on his words. And if a candle flame flickers, it catches his attention. Reed takes a seat, but he doesn't answer. He takes another drink, and Barnes asks him what he's looking for. What has he found? She reasons that if she's right, then the only thing that matters right now is what they actually believe. So she shares what she believes. She believes that Mr. Reed's rhetoric is thin. His garage sale board game metaphor is kind of offensive. He asked why Judaism makes up only 0.2% of the world's population and didn't even pause for the Holocaust. He makes no acknowledgement of the religious persecution Jewish people have faced. It's just used as a setup to a punchline about missionaries. And she's right.
Yeah.
Then he skips over the fact that none of this even addresses Islam because Muslims don't believe that Christ was resurrected. Then he points out all the similarities the mythical gods have with Jesus, but breezes over the glaring differences. As Reed sits quietly taking this all in, Barnes gestures to the gallery wall behind him, reminding him that one of these guys has a freaking bird head. And we linger on the depiction of Horus. I'm like, don't do him.
It's like, don't bring me into this. You had enough counters, yes, without discussing. And this is good because there is a level of pushback.
Right. Yes.
And it's like, yes, he raised a lot of really interesting and good points.
Right.
But a lot of it is also the way that he presented it.
Yeah.
Leaving out certain things, making it a little convenient.
To fit his argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which can also be said.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yes.
A small smile crosses Reed's face for a second as he shifts uncomfortably. Paxton is watching from the disbelief door, terrified as she chews her finger. Barnes finally says that she doesn't think her point of view fits into belief or disbelief. She thinks there's an entire spectrum that Reed's game is neglecting. So it doesn't really matter what she believes. She sighs before asking Sister Paxton if she still believes in God. Paxton winces as she says yes. Barnes invites her to come and leave through the belief door with her then. They'll be honest and sincere, and they'll let God decide what happens next for them. Paxton eyes Reed fearfully as she walks over to the green door. Barnes opens it and steps into the darkness inside. Paxton pauses before following her, spinning to face Mr. Reed and declaring sweetly, "Okay, we're leaving now." I laughed out loud because it's like, dude, this was all so tense and like I didn't know what was going to happen next, and her still being like, "Okay, thanks." Like, I was like, she's so, I don't know. But she thanks him for his mentorship and for letting them leave. She turns and slowly, carefully starts down the steep steps behind Barnes. They walk down together, but when they turn back to the door to the library, Mr. Reed is standing there with a quiet smile, holding his bright blue tumbler. Paxton asks if he's coming too, but instead of answering, Reed pulls the door shut. It squeals on its hinges and closes, leaving them in complete darkness. Paxton calls out to Barnes in a whisper, but Barnes just turns on the phone's flashlight. She assures Paxton that it's okay. They'll take it one step at a time and go slow. By the time they reach the door at the bottom of the stairs, they're both panting. And when Barnes pushes the door open and reveals a brick-walled basement beneath, they breathe harder.
So now that we're past this incredible sequence,
Yes.
and out of this really, really cool library/church situation, I wanted to talk a little bit about the cinematography.
Okay.
Because as interesting as this conversation was, I think that they did a really good job of making this very dense scene visually interesting throughout,
Yeah.
which is not easy to do because it really is just a long conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But the directors had said from jump that they wanted the film to have a very controlled visual language, aesthetically echoing the main theme of the film, if you understand. But they also wanted the actors to have creative freedom to perform during these scenes. And so, very interestingly, this film, I read, was not storyboarded.
Huh.
And it's very surprising to me because you would think everything feels so precise,
Right.
but it also feels very free in an interesting way. And in order to accomplish that goal, it only makes sense that they enlisted one of the greatest cinematographers alive today, none other than Chung Chung-hoon. And that name probably sounds very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is very well known for his frequent collaborations with Park Chan-wook,
Okay.
Old Boy, Thirst, Lady Vengeance, Stoker, and he also shot It Chapter 1 and Last Night in Soho.
Okay.
Hell yeah. When I saw his name in the opening credits, I was like,
Yes.
this is going to be gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense as we continue on because the camera work throughout is brilliant.
Yeah.
But they had talked about potentially Steadicam, and they were like, no, that's kind of giving the wrong feel of what we're looking for. Or maybe we could do dolly tracks, and they're like, no, that's a little too focused. And so what they decided to do is they built what they call a dolly dance floor, which is an adorable name for a very interesting thing. Rather than being locked on a track like a normal dolly is, the dolly dance floor is a series of connected panels that allow the camera operator to kind of just glide over it throughout the entire set with full fluidity and freedom.
Okay.
Damn. You feel that though.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it is so like dynamic.
Yes. And that's the thing is that, firstly, Chung operated his own camera throughout the entire film.
Okay.
And whenever they were shooting, they would often do long takes like this, sometimes 10 pages worth of dialogue
Whew.
Damn.
in one take. And Chung would get limited or very minor directions through an earpiece from the directors, and they'd say stuff like, hey, get closer to Hugh. And Chung would follow his instincts and get there in a way that made sense instead of following any kind of particular plan.
Okay.
And so the directors had called it a bit of dance between camera and performance. Hugh Grant said that Chung is mischievous with the camera. And he is, because he's literally, it's almost like jazz.
Yeah.
Because it's not this set thing. It's like, okay, we got to hit this mark and do this and do this. The actors are doing what they're doing, and Chung is just following in a way.
Playing around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest strengths of this film for me is just how the camera works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of let him freestyle with it. huh?
Yeah.
And I mean, clearly that's the move because look at his instinct.
Yeah.
That's wild. Paxton stares up at a glass skylight in the extremely high ceiling as Barnes starts to inspect the walls. She finds another door, secured closed with a lock. The ceiling rains down, leaking on a table in the center of the room, and in a trembling whisper, Paxton tells Barnes that there's nothing. It's all blocked off. She asks what Barnes thinks Reed wants. Is he going to keep them here forever?
There's a table. He's going to fucking eat us. I knew it. I knew it.
You've been
Yeah,
barking up that
God
tree.
damn it.
Barnes protests that Reed is too smart. He knows an elder will come and check on them, which means he'll either have to let them go or kill them. That's not as comforting as you think.
No.
Thunder rumbles outside, and it draws Barnes's attention to a tiny high window. She drags the table over to its wall and stacks the chair on top of it, deciding that from now on, if Reed puts forth a philosophical point that they don't agree with, they're challenging him. They're making him think. He doesn't have to steamroll them. And while she realizes that they might not be a physical threat, they can be an intellectual one. Barnes climbs onto the table, then the chair, and reaches up as high as she can. All she manages to do is knock off a piece of wood from the wall above. The plank falls and lands in a plume of dust, 3 nails jutting out from its surface. Barnes is nowhere near the window, but she keeps reaching.
Chekhov's
Plank.
nail plank. And there might be some significance in the fact that there are 3 nails in a board.
True.
Okay.
Paxton offers that she thinks the window has a cage on it, and Barnes decides that she's right. When they hear movement on the stairs and realize that Reed is coming, Barnes scrambles back down. She hands the chair to Paxton and tells her to put it back. They set the table and the chair back in the center of the room as quickly and quietly as they can, and Barnes hides the fallen plank behind a beam. As Reed's steady footsteps get closer, she reaches in her pocket and takes out the letter opener. She tells Paxton to take it, and that if anything happens, she is to stab Reed in the neck as hard and as fast as she can. Paxton starts to cry and she protests, but Barnes asserts that it has to be her. Reed is watching Barnes too closely now, and he won't expect Paxton to do it. Thinking quickly, Barnes decides that they need a code word. If she says magic underwear, that means Paxton stabs.
I do love that they are so confident that they're not being surveilled right now.
They are.
It's like, this is our entire plan.
They're very confident. A thud echoes and Barnes repeats herself. The code word is magic underwear. Paxton finally nods and Barnes slides the letter opener into Paxton's coat pocket. Finally, someone has reached the bottom of the stairs. The door creaks open loudly, its hinges popping, but when someone slinks out, it's not Mr. Reed. Their feet are bare and dirty, and their long robes sweep their ankles. Ambling into the room with the lantern hung from her wrist and drapery over her face is the Prophet, played by L. Young.
So just on sight, this is for me where things in one way start to get very frightening. And then in another way, it's like, okay, we've kind of entered a different film at this point, it feels.
It is a shifting because I feel like so far it's been like intellectual cat and mouse. And now we're like adding, it's like just the presence of somebody else. It's like, okay, something different is happening here.
No, yeah, I did feel the same way because about here I seen the Prophet come out and I'm like, okay, I didn't expect to take this route now.
No. And even honestly, at this point, what I thought before it continues is I was like, oh, this is Mr. Reed in a costume.
I thought,
Okay,
Right?
okay, yeah.
I thought it might be his wife.
That she might be real.
Yeah.
And
that,
Dude, then what have you been doing? He's like, you thought I'm actually married, yes.
marry my soulmate, not my roommate, but my soulmate.
I told you at the door.
that's
Well, maybe I'm the dumbass that is like, you still think I have a wife? I do. I think she's in the basement. Maybe we're getting out of this because he was telling the truth.
She's like, the exit's this way. Just go through the mountain.
It's like, thank you.
no,
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. But she shuffles toward the table at the center of the room with something in her hands. Paxton and Barnes cower together, with Barnes venturing in a whisper if this is Mrs. Reed, but the Prophet doesn't answer. She comes closer to the table, revealing what she cradles in her hands as she drops it down onto the wet tabletop. A blueberry pie.
Now, this is good news in a way.
In a way.
But I do wonder if that's why she thought it was Mrs. Reed. It's like, I've only heard of her in context with the blueberry
With the
pie.
pie.
She loves to bake. We
Because-
know that.
But we're trying really hard to look past the fact that it is a ghoul
Yes.
that has
yeah.
entered the room.
And if we put it on the table, it's gonna get all wet.
True.
Yeah, you're ruining it.
Mm-hmm.
Barnes and Paxton whimper as the Prophet twists her hands behind her back, pressing them together in painful prayer before slowly kneeling onto the floor. Tears streaking her face, Barnes asks what's happening to her, but the only answer they receive is a tinny echo of Creep by Radiohead.
And it's an acoustic version.
Yes, it is. Yes, yeah.
Which is very interesting.
It really fits the
yeah.
scene.
It does. So you got to give it to Mr. Reed. The other stuff, not so much. But
But this specifically.
this is pretty good.
As the opening notes play, they find that it's coming from an open pipe, jutting out low from one of the walls. Mr. Reed's voice accompanies the strumming guitar as he sings off key as he did before. I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. And he chuckles. We press in on the pipe's opening. Up in his office, Reed sings along quietly with Tom York when the vocals start, but he's singing absently because he is focused. There's a wooden rendition of his home with 3 figures standing in the upper level. He thoughtfully moves 2 of the figures, clearly representing Barnes and Paxton, carrying them down 2 twin flights of stairs before settling them down into the basement below.
So according to Messina, the production designer, this is a fairly accurate representation of the sets that they built.
Jeez,
Okay.
that's cool.
And they kind of turned it into this little puzzle for Hugh Grant to mess around with during these sequences.
That's really cool.
He jots down on a notepad with Barnes's and Paxton's names scribbled at the top. It's a detailed play-by-play of the night's events in his hurried hand. And I do mean hurried because
Yes.
we've said a lot of good things about Hugh Grant tonight, and penmanship is not on that list.
But it's honestly really creepy to see him messing with this model and with such structured notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's just indicative of his...
Yes, and we'll talk more about that later. But it reads, 5:43, arrival. 5:57, keys. 6 o'clock, colas. 6:05, Book of Mormon. 6:15, front door lock. 6:45, Monopoly. 7:01, slideshow. 8:15, speaker tube.
It is very unsettling, the fact that he had the time for Monopoly specifically, because everything else, it's like, yeah, that makes sense that it would go this way, but you didn't know when they would go into the fucking parlor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you...
Unless he went back and was like, it was...
yeah, you see eraser marks?
He sits, busy at his desk while Radiohead plays, echoing through the speaker tube into the basement below. After tearing themselves away from this distraction, Paxton and Barnes look back over at the Prophet, who is lowering her covered face to the cold floor, despite the groan escaping her and her bones cracking in protest. Barnes first looks at the stairs revealed by the door the Prophet opened before looking back at Paxton. She communicates her intentions silently, and although Paxton shakes her head and refuses, Barnes rises anyway and goes to investigate the stairs. Paxton turns back toward the tube when she sees something shifting inside. Barnes creeps past the Prophet, lying with her face touching the floor and her palms impossibly pressed together behind her back. Once Barnes reaches the flight of steps, she hurries up them, and when she finds a door at the top, she notices a small hole. Paxton shoots a worried glance at the Prophet, who has begun to shift in her position on the floor, before returning her attention to the moving thing inside the tube. But it quickly scuttles to the edge, revealing itself to be a spider. Paxton hides her face. Barnes has found a piece of rope in the small hole in the door and tugs at it. I feel like, having watched it 3 times in a row, because this is odd. This isn't the kind of scare that's in this movie, and this isn't the kind of like the scuttling to like. It was an odd moment, and I kind of feel like this is representative of Reed being the spider and then being caught in this like labyrinthian web of his house.
Well, that goes hand in hand with what we mentioned earlier about the production designer.
Yes.
The patterns on the ceiling of the library.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense, because, yeah, this really is
It was a little odd.
It was a little lowbrow.
But once Barnes pulls at the door, Reed hears it in his library, where he sits at the table, crafting another small figure out of wood with the use of a box cutter. When he hears Barnes's rattling, he consults his watch. How fucked up is it that both of those doors led to the exact same place?
Yeah, that's pretty tough. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of genius.
It is.
You
'Cause
had
it's-
to have known.
It's like the illusion of choice.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
were agonizing over it. And he's like, yes, choose carefully. It's like, you fucking asshole, dude.
Trying to stifle his laughter.
Barnes presses her ear to the door where Radiohead plays, muffled, but very much audible. She spots another door and rushes to it, but when she pulls it, the purple door marked disbelief shakes and reads library. Barnes drops down and peers through the crack under the door, her eyes wide and searching. She spies the dropped matchbox on the rug from when Reed swept the games onto the floor. She reaches an eager hand to the edge of the rug, and we travel down its length to see just how far the matchbox really is. Suddenly, the Radiohead tape stops with a loud click, and Barnes hurries back down the stairs with a gasp. Back at Paxton's side, Barnes sees the spider scurrying on the edge of the tube when Reed's voice comes through, echoing down into the basement. He says that he had to be sure before he introduced them to her. Barnes asks, "Sure about what?" Sitting at his table, Reed reveals that they are in the presence of a living prophet of God. The prophet still kneels on the floor, her dirty hands pressed together, wheezing coming from her lungs, cracking coming from her bones. Barnes and Paxton turn to look at her as the prophet finally rises to her feet. Reed's voice, hollow from its journey down the tube, shares that the reason that he invited them into his sanctuary tonight is because he's been shown a miracle. He believes this miracle is proof that all other religions are demonstrably false and only the ancient echo of something true. The prophet settles down into the seat at the table, the light from the lantern nearly revealing her face through the gauzy fabric draping it. Reed implores that he needs a witness. He needs them to verify that this miracle is real.
It's kind of hitting me just now, but doesn't that kind of go against everything that he said all night? If he's like, this brand new thing is a thing that is the true thing, but also all these old and ancient things are way better than the new things? And just imitations and iterations of it?
Kind of. Because I feel like he's saying there was something true at its core, and every iteration of it
is
stole
taking away
and diluted it. But there was something originally true.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too.
And that's what he wants to show them, is that thing that has been ripped off again and again and again.
Okay.
Like they're listening to Lana Del Rey and he's trying to show them the Hollies.
Mm-hmm.
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 I'm sure he's right, you know?
Right.
The leaking from the ceiling continues, splashing down on the wet tabletop as the prophet raises her veil with shaking hands before bringing them down and plunging her fingers into the pie as Barnes and Paxton watch. So I guess we're not having any of that.
No.
As Reed whittles down the new figure with his box cutter, he says that his family recipe for blueberry pie is pretty standard. The ingredients include butter, flour, cornstarch, sugar, lemon, and of course, blueberries. But tonight, he's included some wolfsbane and belladonna. Finished with his figure, he sets it outside the front door of his miniature house. Reed settles back down, casually informing them that because of these ingredients, the prophet will soon be dead from consuming the pie. Blueberries squelch between the prophet's trembling lips as she shovels them in, and Reed's voice concludes that this is when they will witness a miracle. By the grace of God, the prophet will be resurrected. Hunched over the pie, the prophet's breath wheezes. Her hand hovers over the dessert before falling weakly to the table. The prophet stares ahead, her hair long and lank, her eyes hollow, her mouth smeared with blueberries. Finally, she retches and falls forward, face first into the pie, knocking over the lantern and going still. Reed jots on his itinerary. 9:00, prophet, pie. He's keeping track.
Yeah.
Right. For who?
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
He asks them politely to check her pulse. Both of them. When Barnes and Paxton hesitate, Reed's voice grows stern and he repeats that he needs them both to check her pulse right now. Barnes is the first to move close to the prophet. Reed says that he needs them to confirm that her heart has stopped beating and he tells them how to do it. index and middle finger on the side of the neck and the soft hollow area beside the windpipe. He commands that they both do it and lift her head to be sure. Barnes uses both hands to lift the prophet's head out of the pie, and Paxton lowers her trembling fingers to feel for a pulse in her neck. Just as she touches her, a choking, gurgling sound comes from the prophet, and in her shock, Barnes drops her head right back into the pie. Paxton exclaims that she moved, but Reed assures her with a laugh that it was just a catalytic spasm. Paxton breathes that she's still alive, but Reed protests. Not yet. Chemicals are being released into her body. He asks them again to acknowledge that there is no pulse. They do. He asks them to acknowledge that the prophet is no longer breathing. Barnes raises her face again and holds a hand in front of the prophet's nose and mouth. When there is no air, she confirms with Reed that she is not breathing. Reed underlines, so she's dead. Barnes and Paxton confirm. Reed thanks them and promises that in a moment they are going to witness a resurrection. The prophet will return and tell them about what she saw in the afterlife. In his bright, warm library, starkly contrasting the cold, dark basement where Barnes and Paxton stand, Reed asks casually, "Has the prophet moved?" Barnes and Paxton shake their heads, and it's not until he's like, "Hello?" that they say out loud that she hasn't. He posits, just un momentino, only a moment longer. We press in on the prophet, still face down in the pie, but the moment is broken when a harsh bell begins to ring. Paxton covers her mouth to stifle her shocked gasp, but Barnes proposes. The elders? In the library, Reed contemplates as the doorbell rings. Finally, he takes his glasses off and stands up. Barnes and Paxton hear the door unlock, and they rush to the stairs long enough to see a glimpse of Mr. Reed as he closes the door. Still, they sprint up and drop to peer through the crack between the door and the floor. What they see when they look into the library are Mr. Reed's shoes rounding the corner as he leaves the room. What'd you say? Great tennis shoes?
Yeah, dude. His outfit is madness. I do not understand.
They decide they'll scream, but not until he answers the door. Reed walks down the long hallway and pauses before turning back toward his library. When Barnes and Paxton realize that he's coming back, they fill their lungs and scream as loud as they can. Reed returns to close the door to his library, cutting off their shrieks. In the living room, he takes the bloated Book of Mormon off the table and tucks it back into the armoire. He responds to the knock at the door with the assurance that he's coming. He opens the light switch panel and fiddles with the mechanism inside. With a click, the deadbolts on the front door are released, and Reed closes the panel. When he finally opens the front door, the house behind him is inconspicuous and bright. Standing in the swirling snow is Elder Kennedy, and when Reed offers his apologies for taking so long because he was in the back of the house, Kennedy replies with his own apology for bothering him. He says he's in the neighborhood looking for 2 young ladies from his church. Reed feigns concern. Is everything all right? You bastard.
I know. It's so odd to me as this scene continues. This is like the least convincing that he's been all night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's
real.
like he did anticipate him coming because he carved that figure and put him at the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way he's acting like, oh, like he's
Like, dude, you are suspicious as hell.
He is. He really is. We cut to Barnes and Paxton peering through the bottom of the door, still screaming at the top of their lungs. As they pant and catch their breath, Barnes admits that they can't hear them, but Paxton is looking fearfully over her shoulder, down into the basement. Kennedy is sure that everything's fine, but he was just wondering if the ladies stopped by here. His nose reddened from the cold. He glances behind Reed into his house for a moment. But Reed says regrettably that they haven't. Kennedy is the first house caller that he's had all day. Paxton has found the door with the rope sticking out of it, and she pulls, asking Barnes if she saw this. Barnes dismisses that it's locked, but her eyes are still peering through the slat in the door where the matchbox sits on the rug. Barnes calls Paxton over, proposing that she help pull the rug. They'll get the matches and start a fire to smoke out of the speaking pipe. The elder will know that they're there. So
How?
I don't know. This feels like a really bad idea. This feels like, how do we kill ourselves in this basement?
Honestly.
Like, it feels like you're gonna.
Well, the speaking pipe goes to
goes to
his
the office.
not to the front door.
Correct.
And if some smoke starts to come out, the elder's like, "Oh, I see you've lit the fireplace.
Yeah.
I'll leave you to your very peaceful evening."
Yeah.
Well-
I feel like we're gonna smoke the basement out, and not in a fun way. Like, we're gonna die down here.
Yeah. Well, that door, those boards look old as fuck. Why are we not trying to kick those down?
They pushed them.
All right. I was thinking the elder specifically is like, well, when it was the 70s for me, we would always go down to the basement and
But Elder Kennedy is like, okay. He asks for confirmation that Reed did ask for more information about the church. And Reed is like, this is for which church? Kennedy tells him, the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints. And Reed affirms this immediately. Yes. Kennedy looks slightly suspicious. The score grows frenzied as Barnes and Paxton slip their fingers under the door and pull the rug slowly, inching the matchbox toward them with each pull. Meanwhile, Reed wonders if there's another way that he could help. Kennedy could use his phone to call the police, or he could even get his coat and help go look around for them. But Kennedy refuses. He's sure they're not far. He thanks Reed for his time, and Reed wishes him good luck, assuring that he means that. So, a couple things. Either he was lying and he does have a phone, and he was going to let Kennedy in to use it, which is really insult to injury because they're right under your feet at this point. Or he doesn't have a phone and Kennedy would be like, yeah, that'd be great. And then what was he going to do? Was he going to kill him? Was he going to, like, what was he going to, what was the plan?
Oh, okay.
Or was he just so sure by like societal politeness that he'd be like, no, I've taken up enough of your time. Like, I mean, what was the game plan here?
Huh.
well, I mean, it feels like he does have a really in-depth understanding of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like a jigsaw situation.
Like he knew he wouldn't take the offer.
Right.
Okay.
So I think that would make more
Okay.
sense. But then again, that also, it keeps raising this question of what is this house really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the oven?
Yeah.
Where's the
Well,
phone?
you are baking pies.
There
So
is
there
a
has to
pie.
be an oven.
Yes, there is
Yeah.
a pie. The score is tense when Elder Kennedy turns and starts to make the trek for the front gate, and Reed watches him with quiet amusement. Afterwards, he stands in the hall, as frozen and statuesque as the figure at the end of it. Barnes and Paxton are still frantically pulling the rug closer and closer, but they freeze when Reed opens the door and steps into the library. Everything goes quiet and we glide across the floor. We hear the Shishio Doshi empty, clack. Furniture scrapes and Reed's footsteps thud. When he leaves the room again, Barnes and Paxton resume their pulling, slowly and quietly. But when he enters again, clearing his throat, they stop. He leaves again. They resume, pulling until the matchbox is finally at the door, but it smacks against it, revealing itself to be too big to be pulled through. Desperately, Barnes reaches through the door, and as Reed continues walking around outside the room, she manages to push the tray out of the box and dump the matches onto the rug. This is when Reed comes back in, and with a whispered warning from Paxton, Barnes stops. When the doorbell rings and Reed leaves the room again, Barnes is able to grab a handful of matches and pull the rug in the rest of the way. Reed disengages the deadbolts again before ripping the door open. Kennedy is there again, and Reed wonders if he's had any luck. Elder Kennedy looks back at him coldly. Barnes and Paxton sprint back down into the basement, and while Barnes is only focused on their plan, Paxton hesitates at the table where the prophet still sits, the side of her head resting in the pie like a pillow. Taking a step back from the table, Paxton is certain. She moved. She moved while they were gone. Barnes refutes this. Paxton is just remembering it wrong. She didn't move. But Paxton is positive. Her head is different. Barnes repeats that that's where she was, but Paxton is sure it's not. Barnes takes off her coat and begs Paxton to just come help her. Paxton comes over and the two kneel in front of the speaker tube. But at the front door, Elder Kennedy asserts that he would be remiss if he didn't ask Reed one more question.
Is that pie I smell?
He came back.
He did. And I was very hopeful for a moment.
Yeah.
Reed searches the other man's face and the score mounts, but Kennedy pulls out a pamphlet. The Restoration, the Gospel of Jesus Christ. And he asks firmly, "Have you received this booklet?" Reed grins that he has not, but he'll give it a look-see.
Diabolical.
I know.
He can't keep getting away with it.
But he can.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think the casting of Topher Grace is pretty insidious, because like this is kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I think that us just seeing him in this role, you think he's going to play a much bigger part.
Yeah.
And especially when he comes back, it's like, okay, either Reed's also going to be taken or excuse me, Kennedy is also going to be taken, or he's going to figure it out, or he's going to come back, or so this isn't the end.
Right.
But he is, again, also, I think with all this messaging, he's prioritizing the pushing of this church over this dude that is acting fucking suspicious as hell.
Yeah.
Who is on their list of people to visit today. Sister Hall sent them the list.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in all honesty, that's what the sisters have been doing all night, really. Prioritizing this over listening to their gut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When he pulled out that pamphlet, I was just like, oh, wow, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the basement, Barnes is trying to strike the matches against the cold stone wall. But when Paxton's attention is still on the prophet, Barnes implores her to focus. Upstairs, Elder Kennedy leaves the house. Reed closes the door and immediately engages the deadbolts. That's over.
Yeah.
And with a sense of accomplishment.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, we're recruiting him. I'm taking that baptism from fucking Sister Paxton.
Let her have it at least.
Barnes is finally able to get a light on one of the matches, but when she brings it to her coat, it dies. We pull away from Kennedy as he makes his way toward the gate, where we now see that the bikes are no longer locked. Barnes strikes another match, but it dies again when she brings it to the sleeve of her coat. The score is frenzied and climbing as Reed watches Elder Kennedy make his way down the path and through the gate. When he closes it and walks out of sight, the music stops. In the basement, Barnes is panting as she tries match after match, breaking off some of their heads instead of lighting them in her haste. Paxton glances back at the table and her eyes go wide when she sees that it's empty. The prophet is gone.
Just a couple things. I did want to say that shot of the fence of him leaving was gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also feel like as we've stated, their plan is terrible.
Yeah.
But there is no way that those matches are that loud that you didn't understand that somebody might have slipped into this room and dragged her away, or she's alive and roaming around the room with you.
Yeah.
Dude, the score is very...
Yeah, that's for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, they can't hear that, though. And the ones they do, I know it's a tiny whatever. The ones they did get lit, they were just pushing it against the jacket. They weren't even trying to go under it and light it. They were just...
They don't know, man.
I know we're panicked.
Yes.
And I get it, but...
You only grabbed a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
you
we're
gotta
going
make
to
them
smoke
count.
ourselves out down here and fucking...
That was the plan. We press in on Paxton's frightened face to find the prophet is right behind her. Barnes finally gets a good light on one of the matches, but when Paxton screams, she drops it. The prophet wheezes as Barnes and Paxton cower away from her, blueberries smeared across her face, her dilated pupils nearly coloring her entire eyes black. A gurgling rumbles deep within her, and she opens her mouth to release a stream of blue vomit, which splashes onto the floor, extinguishing the lit match. The prophet stays doubled over, panting and wheezing. Finally, she croaks her weak message. Conductor says my name. White clouds, not heaven. They unplug my brain. Bringing a quaking finger to her lips, she finishes, "It is not real." Reed suddenly comes down the stairs, thanking the prophet for her journey to the other side. He kneels down next to her and puts an arm over her shoulders, informing her that her prophecy will be recorded into their liturgical texts. He stands, acknowledging that she must be exhausted. He invites her to take his hand, and they leave, slowly walking up the steps. Paxton watches as they stop at that small locked door, and Reed whispers something unintelligible into the prophet's ear. He opens the door, lets her through, and closes it behind her as Barnes continues to try striking her matches. We're not even hiding.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
You're giving her cues or something?
Yeah.
no, I'm talking about Barnes. She's like, no, I'm still lighting this bitch
Oh,
on
I was
fire.
talking about him. It's like, well, you're clearly planning something.
Yeah. What are you telling her?
Yeah.
Whisper to her.
It's like lost in translation.
When Reed returns to the basement, he slides his glasses back on, remarking that this is rather interesting because he knows that one of them has been lying since they first got here. Reed walks over to them and bends to their level on the floor, watching as Barnes tries to strike the match. When he asks for it, she hands it over, and he lights it against the wall effortlessly. Holding the flame between them, he shares how he knows that one of them is lying. He knows from the way the fire reacts to each of them. He thrusts it towards Paxton, labeling A, then at Barnes, labeling B. He chuckles that one of them has a very big secret, but they'll know more soon. He walks back over to the table and uses the match to relight the dropped lantern. He concludes that there will be a before they saw a woman die and come back to life, and there will be an after. He is confident that books will be written about it. He warns that they need to choose their words very carefully when he asks, "What did you witness?" He takes out a pad ready to write their responses. He implores them to just tell him what they saw. Barnes shakes her head, whispering that she doesn't know, and Paxton starts to question. How did she... Reed interrupts, asserting that if they didn't see something transcendental, they absolutely must tell him, because if he's wrong, he needs to hear it. But Barnes counters that it's a contrived experiment. They're his prisoners. Reed is like, oh, poo. They're all prisoners together. He reminds them that they're free to leave whenever they want. But why would they want to leave after what they've seen?
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
We're
What are
literally
you-
not free to leave whenever we
No.
want.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you told us we can come out this way. You lied.
And also, you're not part of
No,
us.
no.
Yeah.
It's like, I know we're all prisoners.
Yeah, doesn't it suck that that guy made us stay here?
I don't even
We're
think he
talking
gets us
about
back.
you.
Paxton admits that she did see it, and she heard her describe what she'd seen on the other side. Pointing his pencil at Paxton, Reed declares, "Right." He brings it down to the paper in front of him, questioning, what did she hear? Paxton repeats that she said there was a conductor. She asks if that means an angel. Reed is like, yeah, as he jots it down. Paxton continues with she and Barnes backing away as Reed walks toward them, eager. She says that the prophet had a feeling of disassociation, a feeling that something wasn't real. Reed's bright smile falters just a bit, and he's like, that's it? He shrugs that now they know. Paxton doesn't understand, but Reed doubles down. Now they know. He can show them God if they're willing to die. That's not really what I took from
Yeah. What?
He's taking some liberties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a part of the film where I'm kind of trying to figure out what the fuck his purpose even is. Like, what are you really even trying to do here?
Yeah, I think this is about as well, because we've seen the pie, we understand whatever, but it does feel like you're lying.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, there's something's missing.
Because before it really did feel like this intellectual, what is it, a tete-a-tete?
Yeah.
But now it's just like, okay, so now you're trying to convince them to kill themselves?
Something.
Like, what
Something.
even is your point?
We'll talk later.
I understand. I just feel like the writing is starting to falter a little bit.
Okay. They both stare off, away from Reed, but he assures them that it can be painless. It can be temporary. And like the prophet, they can be brought back. It doesn't have to be frightening at all. In fact, he'll tell them what's frightening. It's the not knowing. Where do we come from? What are we doing here? What's our purpose? The terror of those questions is why religion even exists. He declares that he can answer all those questions for them. He can give a comfort that no religion in the world is capable of giving.
You do it first.
Yeah.
If it's so provable.
Yeah.
Barnes realizes that it all makes sense now. She admits that she's been wondering all night how Reed was going to make killing them their idea. Mr. Reed sighs and adjusts his glasses. He tells Sister Barnes that she's in a muddle, but Barnes replies that she can't tell whether Reed is playing chess or checkers. So Reed tells her excitedly, Monopoly. He's like, come on, it was right there. And it was.
Quit being so charming. Like,
he's still chuckling when Barnes asserts that he didn't show them a miracle. Reed asks what he showed them then. Barnes repeats that it wasn't a miracle. So Reed asks again, what did I show you? Barnes only repeats louder that it was not a miracle. And mockingly, Reed is like, then what did I show you? Like, he's so fucking like, the mask is slipping a little bit. So Barnes finally tells him it was a magic trick. The score grows dark and Paxton looks over to Barnes, catching her signal. She raises her shaking hand to the pocket of her coat. Reed is like, a magic trick? Barnes wonders if he still wants to know why they don't talk about Taco Bell. It's because it killed her when she was 4 years old. 50 people were hospitalized from an E. coli outbreak. She says that the kids at school called her Taco Hell because she was clinically dead while the doctors operated on her kidneys. And when she was dead, she saw exactly what the prophet described. A blinding white light with clouds, but not heaven. A sense of longing to return and a feeling that her state of reality wasn't real. She knows that that wasn't a prophecy. It was a near-death experience. Your mind creates unbelievable things when your brain isn't getting oxygen and your heart stops pumping. She thinks that Reed has been keeping that woman on the verge of death so he can ask her questions about meaningless hallucinations and substantiate his idea of what the one true religion really is. Reed raises his finger before he speaks. He wonders if she knows that when you remember something, you're really only remembering the last time you remembered the experience. You're not actually remembering the events. So her memory of dying at Taco Bell isn't really the memory of dying. It's her memory of the memory of the memory of the memory. He's like, tell me when to stop.
all right.
He declares that Barnes is only remembering a false correlation with what she's just experienced. But this is happening right now. Paxton slides the letter opener out of her pocket and holds it at her side. And as Reed steps up to address Barnes, she stands behind him. Reed implores them to pay attention because they're not talking about some magic trick. As Paxton readies herself, Barnes agrees that they're not talking about a magic trick. No, they're talking about magic underwood. Barnes's words are cut off by the metallic chime of Reed's box cutter slicing her across the throat.
I gasped.
Yeah.
He had enough.
He was like, you're getting too close.
Yeah. She's on to me.
Yeah.
I think it was extra shocking to me, and it's just like a little behind the scenes stuff, really, because it's like she's on Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
Like she's gonna be the one that survives.
1,000%. I thought the exact same thing.
Right?
It was surprising to me. Well, not only that, because it is like, well, they're both gonna make it, or you're hoping.
Yes.
But it sounds funny, but it's kind of like, it's like, oh, you're talking too much. Do something. And he did. You know what I mean? He did.
But it also, to me, I don't know, there's something about it that just feels so out of character for Mr. Reed that we have known.
Right.
That he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to cut her throat with a box cutter. It's like, that's what we're doing now?
Well,
as a film?
I mean, was successful for me because I could not have been more shocked. I did not see that coming.
It works as a shock, but I feel like it goes against the film.
Well, I mean, what he does with it. And I think that Barnes was right about him being like, you're going to be the problem.
Well, yeah.
Because she's the one thinking pragmatically. She's the one that's like, dude, why are you... It doesn't matter what the fuck you tell him. Like, we need to figure this out. She is the one to remove from the equation if you're him.
Yeah.
But I was very surprised because she talks and conducts herself and thinks like a final girl.
She does.
And I was like, if anybody's making it out of this, it's Barnes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I feel like it almost toys with us, the fact that she's like, oh, well, I didn't grow up in the church. So like she has
like a kind of
an experience outside that Paxton doesn't have. And you would think that would, the film would use that to be like, oh, she's a little more savvy or a little less trusting and naive. But no, they're like, look, Barnes, time's up.
But honestly, if you think of it that way, then the role of the final girl kind of Paxton does fit it better.
That's, true.
Okay.
Because of, I guess, that perceived innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about this that it works in the moment. But the more that I think about it and dissect it, it's like we're kind of losing what made this film kind of interesting and special.
I feel like it.
Okay.
There is a shift from the minute they get down in this basement. It doesn't feel like the same film anymore. And it does suck on one hand because the beginning, I think everything leading up to that was, for me, pitch perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say they also said that the inspiration behind their violence was Guillermo del Toro. Because they said that his movies are so striking and beautiful that when violence does come, it's so jarring and unexpected. And that's kind of what they wanted. They don't want you to see anything like this coming. And you don't.
No, I did not.
Everything goes quiet, and with the tense whine in the score, blood begins to slowly spurt out, staining Barnes's outstretched hands and upturned palms. Paxton lets loose a scream that we don't hear, and Reed reasons with her, his voice also lost, gesturing with the box cutter. Everything is in slow motion when Barnes drops to her knees, blood still oozing from her neck, and Paxton sprints up the stairs to bang desperately on the door. Reed smiles down at a bleeding Barnes. The sound returns as Paxton slams her fists against the door and screams for help, but we abruptly cut to the path leading to Mr. Reed's house. The snow swirls in the loud gusting wind, and there is no trace of Paxton's pleas.
See, for me right here, it's this. Again, and I don't know why this has been happening lately, but why did you run away from your friend? Even if she is hurt, he's not paying you any mind. Give him 3 of those stabs to the neck with that letter opener.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
All of this could have been done.
You had it the whole time.
Now I can try to search his pockets. I can try to stop the bleeding from my friend's neck. Why did you run away again?
That's true.
You left Beast. Why the fuck did he do that?
That's true. That's very true.
Why did he leave Beast?
I don't know.
I don't know. It was a couple weeks ago, but we're still mad about it. A dog saved his life, and then
Yes. Yeah.
Back inside, Paxton sits on the stairs, sobbing and rocking, but Reed's voice floats up in an attempt to comfort her. He promises that it's okay. She'll come back to them. He implores her not to be scared. She will rise again. But Paxton finds her comfort in Barnes's words, not Reed's. Her hair fallen in her tear-streaked face, Paxton whispers to herself harshly, "Challenge him." She slowly walks down the stairs to find Barnes, bleeding out and lying on her back. Reed lounges next to her, encouraging her to come back, and when blood spurts from her lips, he cleans it with the back of his hand. He wipes the blood onto his pants and grins up at Paxton, assuring her that it'll only be moments. He asks for one of her drum rolls.
if she leaned back and started, I would have walked out.
Oh no!
She's like, nope.
It would have took off some points.
Yeah.
Real quick.
And this is when we all checked out.
Yeah.
But that's so mean.
It is.
Like, that's so mean.
No, he's an
It
asshole.
is.
When Paxton just stands there, Reed sits up, a little more concerned. He shakes Barnes' shoulder before admitting that he's very sorry, but something's wrong. He sits up on his knees and grabs his box cutter, confessing that now he's very worried she is not coming back to them. He grips Barnes' wrists and raises her arm before bringing the box cutter down. He digs deeply into that faint scar that he noticed earlier on the inside of her arm. Paxton watches, covering her mouth in horror as Reed digs his fingers roughly inside. He affirms, yep, yeah. He's like, there it is. But when he tries to pull his discovery out of her arm and only has a vein, he puts it back inside and keeps digging. He's like, oh, that's raspberry. It's like, dude, he's too, it's bad.
I will say the shot of the vein, it shot right through me.
Yes.
Like I felt it like electricity. Like, oh,
it's terrible. It's so
tough.
It's so good.
Yes.
That you're like, what the fuck? I will say the prosthetics on this film were done by Chris Bridges, the same guy that did the work in Haunt.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that work was great too.
Yes. Yeah. But he chuckles when he finally pulls it out, a small metal tube. He says that this is the problem, this implant. It's what's keeping her from coming back. Barnes lies on the ground, twitching slightly with her eyes closed. Reed stands and goes to Barnes, presenting his findings with a gentle apology that Sister Barnes is a program. What?
So...
Huh?
Yeah, what the fuck?
I understand what he's doing. And it's frustrating.
Okay.
What he's attempting to do. But again, this feels, I understand that the writers researched a lot of things to craft this film. Mm-hmm. This part feels a little tacked on and ridiculous to me, for me.
When he said it, I'll be honest, I was confused because I didn't know if this was really like he was being serious.
Right.
Like, I was like, is this really what the movie's turn? Like, this is where the fuck we're going?
Like if it genuinely,
if it was actually,
yeah. Right. I was like, and then kind of as we go on, and then I was like, what? Like,
yeah.
what's happening?
I did not have the luxury of being fooled even for a moment because I had one of these for many years and I'm not a program. So
no.
I knew exactly what it was.
Well,
but I'm like, it feels like he's how pliable is she right now after everything I put her through and everything that she's seen. What can I convince her of? What can I get away with? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, well, the only reason that, because I knew it was a birth control. I remember yours.
Yeah.
You know, when he pulled it out, I was like, well, that's birth control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But him saying it, I was like, I hope this is not what we're doing. I like, for that second.
Right.
I was like, I hope this is not what you're saying.
And honestly, if that were where this went, then no.
Yeah.
Like, that's the end of my enjoyment of this entirely.
Right.
Because that's absurd.
No.
But I don't know. There's something about it where it kind of is going a little too far from where we began.
Okay.
Even him posing this potential possibility to me is like, you're floundering Mr. Reed and also the screenwriter.
Okay. Setting the bloody tube into Paxton's waiting hand, he reiterates, she's not real. He tells her that it was the candles that gave it away. Paxton sobs that she doesn't understand, and Reed knows that she doesn't. How could she? After a moment, Paxton asks, could you explain it to me? Reed smiles. He doesn't need to be asked twice. I will say, though, when he said that about the flames, I'm like, oh, you were laying the groundwork very early for this because he was already saying that. Mm-hmm. So he did take note of it and was like, that's something that I can use later. Like, he put it in his back pocket.
Okay.
But him mentioning the flames for a moment, I was like, he doesn't really believe this, does he? Like, I know what that is. Mm-hmm. But he knows what it is, right?
Yeah.
I think he's too knowledgeable to not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for a moment when he was like, it's how the flames react, I was like, wait, you're fucking around, right?
That's kind of when I was like, oh, you're okay. Thank you. I was like, come on, man.
This is a bit, right?
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
But he asks if Paxton is familiar with the Taoist concept of the butterfly dream. Paxton offers a butterfly flaps its wings and causes a typhoon, but Reed corrects that that's the butterfly effect, a common mistake. He walks over to the table, swipes the pie onto the floor, and grabs the lantern. The butterfly dream comes from an ancient Chinese philosopher asking himself a question. Was I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly, or am I now a butterfly dreaming that I'm a man?
So this is interesting, and it's yet another butterfly.
Yeah.
It's like the fifth one in this
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
But I don't know how connecting this idea of what, like a simulation to this.
Right.
I feel like it's a, you know.
It's interesting, but I
It was the butterfly. I tell you, the butterfly. He invites her to come sit with him at the table. Using his chalk on the tabletop, he sketches out the theory. 3 circles on the left side of the table, a squiggly line dividing it from the right, and an arrow jutting through the line. He says that the 3 circles are them, he and Paxton alone together. He scribbles out Barnes' circle, noting, "Bye-bye, Barnes." Paxton watches this sadly, but her eyes catch on the bloody box cutter in his shirt pocket. Reed is too deep in his presentation to notice. He's come to the dark realization that they exist in a simulation so advanced that they can't tell the difference between real life. He circles the right side of the table and an artificial dream. He reminds her that she heard the prophet say, "It is not real." He explains that fire dynamics are difficult to render, so he's noticed an anomaly when it interacts with simulated NPCs like poor old Sister B. Barnes couldn't come back, but when Paxton dies, he asks for her hand and uses it to trace the arrow jutting through the supposed artificial dream and into the real world. He says that when she dies, she'll pass through death and wake up into the real world. To punctuate this, he slams his box cutter down onto the table on the real world side. He asks what she thinks. Yes? No? Maybe? Paxton stammers before settling on, "That's a theory." He invites her to challenge his premise because he loves that. He stands, snatches the box cutter off the table, and slides it back into his pocket.
Does he really? Because you cut someone's throat for doing
yeah,
just that.
Yeah.
He stands waiting behind Paxton. She sets the bloody implant onto the table and offers that she doesn't think it's a microchip. She thinks it's a contraceptive, a birth control implant. Reed is like, huh. He wonders if Paxton has ever met a Mormon missionary on birth control. Paxton shakes her head. Putting her name in quotes, he asks if Barnes ever mentioned being on birth control. Paxton reasons that their church would have made her feel ashamed about it and she'd be too embarrassed to admit it. So she starts that his simulation theory, but he interrupts. "Hypothesis, please," before deciding that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Paxton corrects. His simulation hypothesis isn't testable, and Reed agrees that it's not. It's a matter of belief, just like any religion. You either believe, green door, or you don't, purple door. Paxton braces her statement with all due respect, but she doesn't believe it. She's not smart enough to say why she doesn't, but she just doesn't. Reed asks if she believes the miracle that he showed her, and Paxton says that she does. His bright smile falters, though, when she adds, "At first." What Paxton thinks now is that something happened tonight that Reed didn't expect, and now he's improvising and trying to convince her of the simulation theory that's not sticking. She asks if she's right. Reed can't help but smile. He chuckles and asks for her to clarify if she's asking that she's right that he's improvising or if she's right that the simulation narrative isn't sticking. Paxton replies, "Yes," which is what he did earlier. Very good. Reed grins and holds up his hand, pantomiming a high five. He surmises that Paxton is agreeing with Barnes then. The prophet was hallucinating a meaningless near-death experience. But Paxton doesn't think that either. She thinks that Reed switched the bodies. Reed stares at her in pleasant surprise, adjusting his glasses. Paxton admits that she just hasn't figured out how he did it yet. Reed repeats this claim. I switched the bodies. I loved his delivery of that line. Because he's like, bodies?
Yeah.
What? He looks at her questioningly. Paxton retraces the steps of the event. The doorbell rang when the elder got here. We see Elder Kennedy's thumb pressing on the bell. In the basement, Barnes and Paxton look up at the sound before rushing to the stairs. Paxton explains that the doorbell drew their attention to the stairs, and Reed would have been prepared for that. It's when they came back downstairs that Paxton noticed the woman's head wasn't in the same position. It was similar, but not the same. We see this again, the prophet lying with her face down in the blueberry pie. Another woman, draped in identical robes, steps out of the darkness and pulls the first from the table. Paxton proposes that another woman came in through a hidden door, disposed of the first body, and then took the prophet's place at the table. Reed is like, I see. But Paxton continues. Once they got back downstairs, this new woman read off a secret prophecy that was being handed off to her by Reed. Reed prepared this prophecy, except for the last thing that she said. We see the woman repeating this in her harsh whisper, her mouth stained with pulpy blueberries. It is not real. Paxton thinks that she was trying to tell them that the miracle wasn't real. Paxton looks up at Reed, asking if he sees what she means now about something he didn't expect happening. She thinks that woman went off the script he gave her, and now he's trying to recover. Reed allows that if she's right, there would have to be another way into the basement. He inspects the walls himself before deciding that there isn't another way in. But Paxton's eyes have lifted up to the skylight in the ceiling where the rain is steadily leaking in. She follows the leak, where it lands repeatedly on the top of the table. Paxton stands, removes the lantern, and tips the table. We follow the water as it glides down Reed's sketched arrow and lands in a puddle that leaks through a now obvious door built into the floor. Paxton kneels and scrapes away the mud with her hands before she finds a metal handle. It clangs loudly when she takes it and pulls. The door creaks on its hinges and reveals a ladder leading down below the basement.
I was happy when she found the trap door, honestly, because I was like, I knew you were full of shit, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, I again, when he went on, and I was like, I hope this isn't the turn we're taking. And then, things play out, and then Paxton's kind of going about it, and then it's like, here's the door. I was like, yes, it's like, we beat you. But
Yeah.
It's not too early.
There's too much movie left.
Yeah.
Reed shrugs that there would have to be a dead body down there if she's right. Paxton agrees, and Reed wonders how she'll test her theory. Paxton admits in a sigh that she doesn't know, so Reed proposes an option. Will she go into that hole and see if there's somebody down there? Paxton says that she will if she has to, and when Reed asks why she would do that, she tells him it's because she wants to know the truth, and because the only way out is through. Reed is like, Robert Frost? Paxton shakes her head. Swamp Thing.
That's right.
Iterations.
Iterations. Reed laughs quietly before warning Paxton. Don't go into that cellar unless you're prepared to discover the one true religion. Paxton fixes him with a brave gaze before sighing deeply and stepping down onto the ladder. She climbs down slowly, and there, in the dirty, puddled water, thrown to the side like an afterthought, she finds the body of the first poisoned prophet. Reed steps into view and locks eyes with Paxton. When she tells him, I knew it. He shuts the trap door without a word, leaving Paxton alone in the dark. I feel like she just bested him.
Yeah.
And earlier in the library when Barnes bested him and was like, you didn't account for the Holocaust. That God is not like Jesus. He has a bird's head. You're like, discounting all of these things. You're being offensive. He, again, followed them to the door and then just closed it. He's like, I got to regroup.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. Using the flashlight on the phone, she finds a door. When she pushes the lock, it opens for her easily. Inside, she walks through a room adorned with hanging bones to find another door at the end. A golden occult symbol decorates it with what appears to be the perfect circle symbol in the center of it.
Very cool.
Maybe just me. But I was like, what the hell? But she pulls the lock open for this one too. The door swings inward, revealing another room filled with bones and trinkets and another door painted with a symbol. Paxton passes through this one and into another room dedicated to Satanism. The leaking water drips on books, iconography, and demonic paintings. Her breath trembling, Paxton comes to the door at the end of this horrible room-filled tunnel. She finds it secured with Barnes's red bike lock.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And I love the way this hallway looks.
Yes.
When she goes through, you said it was the AFI room or whatever.
Yes,
or what?
right.
A perfect circle.
Perfect circle.
Love them both.
But everything in here, I know there's water dripping, and it's like none of this stuff would survive down here long with it being moist and wet like that the whole time.
Right.
But going through it was, I'll be honest, me, at this point, I'm like, what's behind that fucking door?
Yes.
And this is, again, a credit to the production design. And you understand what they're talking about where they're saying Dante's Inferno is this influence.
For sure.
They talked about things getting more and more organic as it goes on. And it's just such an interesting choice that they made here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like up top, it's so meticulous and everything is thought out. And he has his little house puzzle box and his library is so organized and he's got the two doors and the living room's all cozy. And
This
the
is like
deeper you get,
the bowels of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like going deeper into his mind where it's all fucking just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing the bike lock here.
Mm-hmm. And it's the payoff to what we saw earlier.
Yeah.
Where it was missing from
The gate. Yeah. She slides her hand into her pocket and finds the key that never should have been there in the first place. When she puts it into the lock, it's a perfect fit. She turns it, removes the lock, and opens this final door. In this chamber, Paxton immediately begins to shiver, and as we pull away from her, we see the large dog cages lining the walls. A sprinkler overhead sprays a burst of mist before quieting down, and we see that it's falling upon women confined into these cages. They all lie with thin fabrics draped over them, breath wheezing, weak and fatigued behind the bars of their cages, all seeming to resemble the prophets from earlier. Paxton immediately lowers herself to the nearest cage and tries to open it. When she can't, she takes off her coat and slides it between the bars to cover the woman inside. She looks up when Reed's heavy footfalls announce his arrival, and when he steps into the room from the opposite side that Paxton entered, he apologizes for the cold.
It's funny to think of him shutting that door and then running as fast as he can.
Yes.
That's why he's got the tennis shoes on.
Right. It all makes sense.
He wonders, though, if she's figured it out yet. Paxton thinks that she has, so Reed asks, "What is the one true religion, Sister P?" Fighting back her tears, Paxton begins. She recalls that when they first arrived, he left them alone in his living room. We see them, naive and patient, looking around Mr. Reed's living room. Paxton says that they thought he was talking to his wife, but he was doing something else. Reed agrees with a grin that he was. Paxton realizes that he took the key from Barnes's coat, went outside, unlocked their bikes, and hid them. We see him doing this and then coming back, friendly, with the tray of Cokes and his blueberry pie scented candle. But Paxton noticed that his hair was wet, like he'd been out in the storm. Water sprays over them in the chamber now, hissing when Paxton reasons that Reed did this so that the elders wouldn't see their bikes when they eventually came looking for her in Barnes. But there was something else on Reed's mind. He agrees with this too. There was. We see Reed sliding the red key into Paxton's pocket as Paxton reveals that they first thought he put it in the wrong pocket by mistake, but now she knows that it wasn't a mistake. Reed is using the watering can he was holding when we first met him to pour water into the bowls in the cages. Reed presses her, asking why it wasn't a mistake. Paxton continues that he gave the bike lock to one of the prophets and told them to lock the final cellar door with it. Excitedly, Reed quizzes her. But why? Why did I do that? Crying, Paxton tells him it's because he wanted her to know that the only reason she's standing here right now is because it's exactly where he wants her to be standing. She's not here because she chose to be. She's here because he made her choose to be. Reed looks satisfied and dazed, even intoning, ooh, and rolling his head back, euphoric. Paxton finally answers his original question. It's all because he wants her to believe that the one true religion is control. The sprayer hisses overhead and Reed stands with his eyes closed, basking in her realization. His reaction to this was so fucking scary to me. Like, it was like, do you remember the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dennis is like, you want to get off with me? Like, that's what this was. Like, he's enjoying himself.
Right.
Well, because his mission is accomplished.
Yes.
His mission.
Yes. Ah, I see what you did there.
Well, I think that it's a very interesting point to raise. And I do understand all of the things that he has set into motion from the beginning of this terrible evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just have so many questions about these women in these cages.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these women are people who arrived just like Barnes and Paxton.
Right.
Who went through his weird ass trials and presentations and arguments and everything, and this is the result of that as they end up here.
I mean, potentially it is, you have to suspend some disbelief after a certain point, because it's like, how are we not looking for this guy? How's this guy not on a list? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if he was telling the truth at the beginning, and I think that his knowledge would kind of lead us to believe that he was, all of the studying that he's done, all of the maybe places that he's gone, maybe he's been doing this, he said, for, almost all of his life.
Yeah.
So maybe these are people that he's had. I mean, I don't know.
No, I have the same questions. I'll be honest, just right here though. For me, I was like, I think we're talking a lot. Like we
are, and it is.
That's fair.
It is some over explaining.
Yeah,
and I will give you that. But I think that we're kind of venturing into like symbolism here with these women in cages, oppressed, stripped of identity by, under the guise of religion. I think that is the takeaway here, because if you really are like, well, hold up, how? It doesn't hold up under, a microscope.
I think it does work symbolically until you ask one question.
It's that.
Yeah.
And I
I
think that the symbolism of it is so strong and so, important and impactful, in my opinion, that I don't want to ask any more questions.
Like, just let it be.
I just want to let it be. You know what I mean? But I do know that it doesn't hold up to any kind of scrutiny. It's not explained, because when he answers the door, he has the watering can, which presumes, it leads you to believe that he was down there with them when Barnes and Paxton showed up. So this is just his routine. He goes down, gives water to the prophets, gives them a little food, whatever. This is his life. So it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But the way that it is so meticulous, so controlled. He knew the elder was coming, so he sculpted another little fucking figure of him. He, 7:01, we go into the library. He is a fucking control freak. All of this was he's pulling the strings for every moment of this evening. Even putting the key in the quote unquote wrong pocket.
Yeah.
He was controlling all of it.
But logistically, if you think about it, it would have to be that Paxton ends up becoming one of these prophets, because every single time he does this, a prophet has to die, right?
Yeah, he would have to replace who he's killing.
Right.
Yeah.
And
whoever eats the pie.
Yeah. So is that the purpose as well, to gain more prophets for the next person?
It could be.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like he really enjoys the journey.
Yeah.
He was living during his Monopoly presentation. He was having the time of his life. And it makes you wonder, because Barnes was the one to speak up, how many of these people born into this religion, into this belief, trained to go door to door, be polite, tell these people what they want. You know what I mean? Like, how many of them really talk back? How many of them spoke up like Barnes did? I mean, it's like, it does make you wonder, but again, you can't. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up, but you do wonder, does he do this every time? Is it the blueberry pie every time? Is it the same story every time? Like, or does he do different shit? We will never know.
Maybe
we'll
they're
never
in dairy.
know.
Nobody gives a shit.
And nobody's looking.
Nobody cares.
Well, I mean, you know, you think about submission.
Yeah.
These kinds of things. And so there are some ways that it works. But yeah, I think the more we talk about it and the more we kind of pick it apart, it is one of those things where it's just like on the surface.
Yes,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
Yeah. Reed finally opens his eyes and smiles, commending her that that's exactly right. Religion is just a system of control. One of the women in the cages rasps for air and rattles the bars as she reaches out a hand. Paxton gasps before rushing to her and promising that it's okay. She's going to help her. But Reed chuckles that that's what's so interesting. They don't want her help. They're exactly where they want to be. Paxton reminds him that he killed that woman, but Reed doesn't agree. He sets down his watering can, picks up a pair of shears, and settles down into a chair next to one of the cages. He argues that that woman chose to eat a poisoned pie because of her profound faith. It's called drinking the... He pauses. Anyone? And he snips his shears for dramatic effect. Kool-Aid.
I feel so bad for Kool-Aid because it was Flavor Aid.
It wasn't Kool-Aid, yeah.
And they're like, God damn it, every single time.
That's who they should have been worried about, not Radiohead.
No shit.
Kool-Aid's like, we fucking had enough. He snaps down at the woman in the cage until she presents her hand. He admits that it is true that he keeps these women a little chilly and peckish, which he is sorry for, ladies. He starts to clip the woman's fingernails, reasoning that it's for the same reason that Paxton's church goes to Haiti to give out Bibles after a hurricane, because it's easier to control someone who has lost everything. Reed confesses that it is true, though. The prophet did go off book. He continues snipping her nails before bringing the shears down and cutting off the tip of her finger.
So even through his meticulous planning and potential, I guess, brainwashing of these women, she still did her own thing.
Yeah.
And improvised.
Yeah.
Maybe she's new. Maybe she's realizing this isn't real and she doesn't want to see it happen to them.
I feel like this is a layer that's kind of unnecessary for him to be like, no, she did.
We're adding a lot of maybes.
Yeah.
I will admit that.
And honestly, it was kind of a bit speculative of Paxton, too, to be like, and then you slipped her a note, but it was one sentence that was not.
Yeah,
so,
that's...
You know, and then it's exactly true. It was one sentence, and it was that sentence. That's a little, right?
A little. The finger falls to the ground and Reed plucks it up, unbothered. Pressing her head against the bars in front of her, Paxton asks in a whisper why he's doing this. But Reed presents the real question. Why do you all let me? He pops the finger into his watering can with a splash, and Paxton finally stands up, leaving the woman's side and sobbing that she's sorry.
In retrospect, I guess we didn't react at all to the fact that he cut off her finger.
We didn't.
We just no-sold it.
Right?
Yeah. But that's also pretty wild, too.
He's punishing her.
He threw it in the fucking watering can.
He did. So now nobody gets water.
No.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Reed stands too, informing Paxton that she is here because other people's ideas have influenced every decision she's made since the day she was born. Because of that, he has been able to predict every decision that she's made tonight. Paxton turns her back to Reed and bites her finger as she cries. When Reed reaches her, he rubs her arm reassuringly and shushes her. He continues in a softer voice that she's allowed them to dictate every decision of her life. They decide who she worships, where she worships, what she worships. As the sprayer hisses overhead and Reed runs his fingers through her hair, he adds that they even dictate the garments she wears under her clothes. Paxton is like, what? So Reed reiterates, leaning close to her ear, your magic underwear. Paxton brings the letter opener up swiftly, burying it deep into Mr. Reed's throat. She sprints up the stairs as Reed stands, choking and confused. When he pulls the weapon out of his neck, blood spurts from his mouth. That was cool.
It was kind of funny that she just lured him right into it.
Yeah.
That was for us.
That was for
sure.
us. But I mean, I guess it is a payoff because we've already set up the this phrase connected with the blade.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just
But if you already have it in there once, why not do it a couple times? Why not make sure?
and just run away.
Yeah, you just
And stupid fucking Mr. Reed just
Ripping
take it
it
out.
Yeah.
But Paxton is panting, climbing up the ladder in hopes of freedom. When we pan out, though, we see her running through the miniature model of the home in Reed's office. As she disappears deeper into one of the looping halls, she runs into the actual room.
Very
That
cool.
was great.
Yeah,
that was great.
Real cool.
Yeah, I like that.
She grabs the desk and pushes it against the door she came in through before opening the closet. She finds a smaller slanted door in here, and when she pushes it open, she finds herself back on the basement stairs. She is now standing in the doorway of the door that she and Barnes couldn't open earlier. The purple door leading to the library is just to her left. In denial, Paxton steps back into the office, struggling to catch her breath, and her eyes catch on a framed depiction of the inferno and its levels of hell. So this was the direct nod to their inspiration of Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
We start with Paxton upside down and flip over her until she's right side up, peering down at the ladder through the open trap door. When she turns, she's met with Reed, who plunges his box cutter straight into her stomach. He pulls it out in a slow squelch, and Paxton stumbles back, falling onto the floor in a heap. She backs up against the wall with her hands on her belly, much like she did earlier in her silly rendition of a drum roll. Similarly, Reed sinks down to the floor, clutching his bleeding throat with one hand and the box cutter in the other. He implores her in a rasp, "Pray for us." He makes a silly face and attempts to scoff, but Paxton tells him simply that praying doesn't work. Her breath shudders and Reed looks at her in surprise. This isn't funny. I was struggling not to laugh because for a couple reasons, because his mouth really doesn't match.
No.
He's not saying any of that.
And also he's like, "Pray for us." And he's like, ugh, like making fun of it. And then he's like,
He's in tremendous pain. It's very bad.
it's like, you got to drop the act, dude. Taking her turn to lecture, Paxton asks Weekly if he's ever heard of the Great Prayer Experiment. They split patients into groups. One received prayers and one didn't, and the results were conclusive. Groaning and grabbing at his throat, Reed flops forward, his face twisted in agony. He crawls and drags himself over to her. Paxton shares the results that prayer simply doesn't work, but she thinks it's beautiful that we all pray for each other, even though we all probably know it doesn't make a difference. As Reed drags himself across the basement over to her, still gurgling and holding on to his box cutter, she muses that it's nice to think about someone other than yourself. She adds, "Even if it's you." Finally reaching her, Reed grabs onto her ankles and pulls himself up, but Paxton pays him no mind. She sighs, lowering her head and closing her eyes as she laces her fingers together. She thanks God for all the trials he's given her in her life and for the path that he laid out for her. Reed wheezes as he lays his head on her chest and whimpers out a sob. They stay like this for a moment, Paxton praying with her eyes closed and Reed lying on her chest. But finally, he lifts himself up and brings the box cutter to the center of her throat.
It's wild to me that he wasn't 1% moved by any of it.
He was he got over it.
I think he was crying for his throat pain. I don't
That
think
was
had,
it.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with her.
His throat pain.
He's trying to trick her so he can kill her.
Paxton still prays, and as Reed readies himself to end her life, he is suddenly hit in the side of the head with the fallen plank. The nails embed themselves into his skull. Mr. Reed goes down and his oversized glasses clatter to the floor, dripping with his blood. Paxton gasps and opens her eyes to find Barnes, her throat still caked with blood, wielding the plank weakly. Mr. Reed lies dead on the ground, eternally staring, and Barnes, having used the last of her strength, drops the weapon that killed him next to him before collapsing herself. Paxton sobs silently, the score taking over the sound, and cradles her fallen friend as the ceiling continues to leak. Finally, she stands, still holding her stabbed middle, and whispers, "Goodbye, sister."
Do you think him pulling that out of her arm, that's why she came back?
She was like, "Oh shit!"
Like jolted her back.
Yeah.
It's so tragic because I honestly thought for a moment that she wasn't dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
That it was, she had come back with this last bit of life, but that she was going to cling to that life.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that Paxton was going to take her to safety.
Oh, all right. I almost thought he was one of the prophets.
That's fair.
And then when it was Barnes, I was like, oh, shit. And then I thought that, too. I was like, oh, then you're good.
And if it was one of the prophets, that would be a complete loss of that control.
Yes. And the prophets, Barnes deserves it, but the prophets definitely deserve it as well to have done this. I was so shocked that Barnes was able to do this that the second time I watched it, I was like, is this really happening? Because he's about to kill her. He's got the box cutter up against her throat, and then suddenly she's miraculously saved.
It's like an answered prayer.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is this a story our brain is telling us as we die?
This is her vision.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
If this is her vision, it is pretty fucked up that she just leaves the prophets in the basement. So I don't know.
Like, you gotta put your own mask on first. In the office, Paxton frantically searches the model of Reed's labyrinthian home, desperate to find a way out. She gasps when her fingers find a hidden compartment. We cut to a small, high grate opening up on the side of the house. Paxton throws the grate out into the new morning snow before tossing her phone onto it and jumping out herself. We linger on the alert on the dying phone's screen. No service. Still, Paxton snatches it up and rushes away from the house. The score is intriguing and hopeful when she falls to her knees in the snow with the sun rising behind her. She lifts her bloody hand to find, balanced on her finger, a monarch butterfly. The music crescendos and stops, and when we see Paxton's hand again, it's only the blowing wind, and the butterfly is gone. There is nothing there. Sister Paxton looks up to the sky. It cuts to black. Knocking on Heaven's Door by Sophie Thatcher plays, and the credits roll. So, what did you guys think of Heretic?
Very quickly before we get into final thoughts and ratings, I did read that the style of this cover of Knocking on Heaven's Door is in the style of Fade Into You by Mazzy Star.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's another kind of demonstration of iterations.
Yes.
Oh,
I
right,
love that.
all right.
And it is Sophie Thatcher, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I have to ask before we get into it, do you guys think she lived or no?
From what the movie told me, no, she's dead.
It's difficult because I think that it is a matter of faith.
All right. John Paul. Just kidding.
No, I expected it. I'm used to it.
I looked up the screenplay and I read the last bit, and they don't have the butterfly not being there in the screenplay. They have it jumping on her finger, and then it's kind of on like flying around her, and it's like, does it mean something? Does it mean nothing? Is it Barnes? Is it someone else? Who knows? Like, that's literally what the screenplay says. And so I think there has to be a reason they included that shot of her just looking at her hand and not seeing anything.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, is it this like messaging again that Mr. Reed was giving us of like, even though you have been shown something so horrific and your faith has been tested more intensely than it could ever be ever. You are still choosing to see the butterfly, to see the light, to have the faith that what you've learned all night, most people would be like, fuck that. So I don't know. I thought that it was just interesting.
I think it is exactly that. I think it's just a matter of her belief.
Yeah.
She believes that it's there.
Yeah. And I was
it doesn't matter what we see.
Exactly. So is it a representation of Barnes, or part of me is like, is that you dying and that's your vision of yourself? Because that's what she wanted to do. Land on people's finger.
She did.
Yeah.
But I think that Barnes also heard that.
She was like, girl, it's me, bitch.
Say no more.
Don't tell anybody about that birth control implant. Okay.
but she also said a near-death experience. So is that just being like, oh, bitch, you almost died? That's it. And then that's just
No,
that.
the near-death experience is when you saw the clouds and the conductor. That was the near-death.
Well, there were clouds outside.
There were. It was a cloudy day.
But I just think, like I was saying at the top, I think that it is, there's a lot of conversations that could be had. I think that the ending is very beautiful, and it's like, what the hell's really happening here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But John Paul, I'm sorry.
I did enjoy this movie. I like the conversation that we're having in the movie. I think, T, I kind of lean towards how you feel going into the later acts of the movie, or that last act. And the beginning was really strong. The middle, where I'm still like, I'm listening. Come on, Mr. Reed, tell me whatever.
Yeah.
And before we get any further, liar, Fletcher Reed, this guy Reed, Mr. Reed, I was loving it the whole time. But
he's truly kicking his own ass.
Yes. But I enjoyed all of that. I think once we get into the basement and it does turn into she's going to eat the pie and come back, but you got to watch, but you have to believe, you have to this and that. And then it's like, okay, well, but like, what's happening after that? Then again, she gets into, everything happens. Then we get into the dungeon area and she's going through, or wherever underneath. She goes through the door, and then we get the whole thing about what's happening. And I was like, dude, I didn't need you to tell me that. I've already figured that out by now.
Mm-hmm.
So going through that again did kind of hurt it for me. And the ending, I get it. It does look pretty, but again, from what I've gotten out of this movie, that's the last thing you're seeing. You're dead. And that does suck. But I think, like we mentioned earlier, if we start to ask questions, some of the things become less spectacular or less frightening and more of a just how.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And why? And why is nobody doing anything?
All fair points. I think that I really can't agree more. The breakdown of the narrative through the acts, because I do think that third act to me is just kind of clumsy compared to what came before. And when we're talking about control, it almost feels like you're losing control of your own narrative.
Right.
And I don't think that it measures up to those first two acts, because I was so impressed. And I think that throughout there's these really cogent points and a very fascinating presentation of these philosophical arguments.
Yeah.
And I think that it is an interesting thing to where you can watch this film and really have a good conversation afterwards about all of these things.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a positive for the film for sure. But I don't know, there's just something about it that parts of it I love. And then other parts of it, it's like not necessarily sticking the landing.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are parts throughout, though, where I'm impressed by something. It is visually incredible throughout. Everything that they did with the cinematography, this set of this house through the production design.
Yeah.
Amazing work. And I think that those things shine through no matter what happens regarding the narrative. And even if the third act isn't for me, the last moments and the last shot and what you can take away from that, I think is really brilliant and beautiful. But I don't know. It's definitely one to watch. I just would have preferred that the ending matched the quality of how we started this whole thing.
Okay.
I totally get what y'all are saying. And I do agree that it doesn't stay as strong as it is at the beginning. But I think the beginning just snatched me in so like intensely that I'm like, I'm willing to see where you're taking me. I think that Hugh Grant is so incredible in this, and his performance is a big reason why I am a little more forgiving with this, because it's like, it's Hugh Grant. You know what I mean? Like he walks that line so expertly between like, oh, this is just a very smart older guy that's trying to have a conversation, and is this weird? No, it's okay. It's okay. Look how charming he is. No, this is weird. No, it's like, until you're like, oh no, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he just does a really good job of like, you want to be like, why the fuck would you go in that house? But if you look at him in the beginning, you're like, dude, his wife's in the kitchen. Like, I've got no reason to not believe this guy, you know?
Yeah.
I think that he does a really good job of walking that line until he completely tumbles over.
I'm just thinking about him still trying to do his shtick while he's bleeding out.
Yeah. Pray for us.
Oh, God.
He's like, oh, that hurt.
He was himself to the end. You know what I mean? But I think that everybody's performances were really, really incredible. I totally agree about the cinematography. It's so dynamic. It's so like playful at times. It's very interesting, very creeping at other times. Like, it's just really, really good. I also, like you said, T, the production design is insane. This house is incredible. I love the screenwriting for the most part. That monologue about fucking Monopoly and the Hollies and like, that is incredible. That is something that I will take away from that movie. And if I never watched Heretic again, I would remember that scene. That scene is incredible. I do think that as we get a little bit deeper into this house and into this story and into this film, we get a little expositional. We get a little, you got to suspend some disbelief, because if you ask any questions, it's all going to fall apart. And to enjoy it, you need to just accept what you're, and maybe that's what Mr. Reed's saying too, T. So this movie's actually brilliant.
I was going to say, I think you're doing a little heavy lifting.
Yeah.
It's meta.
Yeah. Is it good because you were told it's good? You know what I mean?
Right, by my brain?
Yeah. So the film is genius. It's a 10. No,
like, it's
I
not.
do think it's not a 10. I think that we can go into ratings as well. My score is very generous. I am adding 0.5 because the conversations that could come from this film, no matter what side of the fence that you're on, or if you're on the fence, or if you don't give a fuck about the fence at all. I think that anybody could watch this and have a conversation with somebody that believes something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if more people had conversations, civil conversations, respectful conversations with people who believe something different than you, this world would probably be a better place.
Yeah.
And I just, again, I like T said at the beginning, I don't have a dog in this fight, you know what I mean? But I'm endlessly fascinated, and I do really enjoy religious horror. And I think that this is kind of done in a way, I'm sure people will be like, oh, I'm actually in 1973 or whatever, but I've never seen it really done this way before.
Right.
And it is a treat to kind of deconstruct something that is such a touchstone in the lives of, I would say, the majority of people, to kind of boil it down in a way that is digestible, if not a little disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like, I live for conversations like the ones had in this film and the ones that this film could
inspire.
Yeah.
Yes. I think before I said let's get to ratings, I said what I like and what I don't like about it. And I am giving that little 0.5 zhuzh because I really did enjoy this. And I think it's kind of, this might be weird to say, but I kind of feel like it's an important film. Like, I think that, not to quote Whitney Rose from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, but I think T took his headphones off. I think that everyone should watch it. I'm just kidding. I think people would benefit from watching this and then talking to their friends and family about it after. That's my belief.
Yeah.
So
No, you're floundering.
I'm what'd you say? I'm improving.
Yes.
We're all in a simulation. And on a scale from 1 to 10, dichotomously declarative doors, I am giving Heretic an 8.5 out of 10 dichotomously declarative doors. The flame on that candle is reacting differently to you, John Paul, but I'm still gonna open the floor to you.
No, I can understand it, and I'm not one for. Well, I mean, maybe I guess religious horror kind of needs to, you know what I mean, hit just right. But I think for me, I did enjoy a lot of the movie. And again, its strength, the movie's beautiful, like beautiful. The movie looks great. I would have, I'm gonna say I wanted more Topher Grace, but then it's like, no,
Yeah.
I think we got what we needed. And the movie does play out the way it does. And I think that once it comes to that end, I think the twist is very like, oh, okay. But I don't know if I would have enjoyed her going through the door and then it being hell or being something else or whatever. I don't know if that would have hurt the movie for me or it would have, you know what I mean? I think we do such a good job. And then when we get in the basement, it is a little like, okay, I don't know where we're going from here.
Wouldn't that be wild if we get through this entire film and then it gets to the end and he really was like trying to show them the one true religion and he has hell in his basement? That would be crazy.
I don't know how that would work.
I don't either.
But I think
He's
it's
like, I'm trying to tell you.
He is very suave and funny and comforting throughout the movie. It is almost that. It's like, okay, dude, you're getting me to do these things or make these choices and whatever. But if, you know what I mean, it does feel like, not that there's a lack of action, but I don't know. I feel like there's something that isn't there that I wanted to be there.
For sure.
But I did enjoy the movie. I enjoyed the miniature being the exact same of the house and us going through it. That whole transition from going through that and then coming out and seeing her running through the door. And like a lot of it is cool. And I agree, babe. The conversation, I enjoy the conversation. I like what's going on here. The ending, I does look pretty, but again, for me, it is just from what I've been told in the movie or I'm coming to my own conclusion of things that I've learned in the movie. The butterfly disappearing, you died outside. That was it. To me, that was like, oh, I'm fixing to die. And then it's like, oh, that's why you've seen the butterfly. Wow, like what the fuck? I made it out, but I'm still dead. You know what I mean? It's a little bleak if that's the route I'm going with. But I would recommend anyone to watch this. This was a very fun movie. Good. Again, the topic here, you know what I mean? If you can have a civil conversation about it, cool. But for me, on a scale from 1 to 10, dichotomously declarative doors, I'm going to give Heretic a 7 out of 10. I like the movie. Do I like the ending? The last half, you know what I mean? But I do feel like there's certain things that are strong. The strengths of the movie kind of helped me to get around some of the other things that I didn't like.
Right.
No, I can agree with basically everything that you said.
Yeah.
I think the only thing for me, and again, I think that's what's so cool about the ending is that it is so up to interpretation.
Yeah.
It is pretty ambiguous in what you take away from it. I want to be more hopeful and see it as this is Paxton's idea of what a soul returning and revisiting looks like.
Okay.
And so that it is Barnes. And she is coming back to give this final farewell.
Okay.
I feel like that helps me a lot as far as the ending.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
okay.
if it's just like that, it's like, God damn. No pun.
No, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now we're canceled.
I think I've been smoted. That's why I started not feeling well.
But I don't know. I think that it in its own way, there are a lot of things that are pretty special about it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very different take on the concept of religious horror.
Yeah.
Because when you think of religious horror, you think of very specific
Yes.
archetypes, iconography, and it is not that at all.
Mm-mm.
It is more of a conversation piece, and it is more of a thoughtful presentation of all these things.
Yeah.
Rather than the standard things that we know and love.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, it is very fair, like you had said, on both sides, because it's critical in ways that are sparking a discussion rather than just being this like comment thread of one up and
Yes.
trying to score points or whatever, because I think that you can take a lot away from it depending on which character and their ideology you might identify with more.
Right.
But yeah, I think, honestly, to say anything more would just be repeating everything that I said previously. Technical accomplishments and the first hour, maybe hour 10 aside, I really, really wanted something different as far as that finale is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does feel like we are kind of losing ourselves a little bit and delving into things that are interesting on paper, but the more that we dig into it outside after watching it, it kind of falls apart, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But to close it all out, I'd say for me, on a scale from 1 to 10, dichotomously declarative doors, I am also going to give Heretic 7 dichotomously declarative doors. You could have also given it a 7, and we would have a very holy hat trick.
Oh, no, I liked it more than that. Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate Heretic, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Instagram at the Pod Mortem. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like our Stairhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Blood and Smoke, at Juggalo Daddy 84, and at Travis MWH. Thanks again to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll get over 250 hours of bonus content, our monthly schedule, access to our Discord server, and the opportunity to help us decide which films to cover. And if you're looking for Pod Mortem or Stairhole Productions merch, follow the link in our episode notes. Stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, we could endlessly debate the one true religion, but the words of wisdom you must always listen to are the ones that come from your gut. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo, yeah.
Very good. A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Tamez, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Andy Teague, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Kimberly Kleindienst, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rezak, Molly Gerhardt, Armand Spasto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Berry, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Spencer Montalvo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Newting, Alexis Roberts, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman-Wise, Mozzie Bear, Dave Burke, Emma Hagel-Kissinger, Valerie G, Emiliana, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bowers, Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Cow OKC, Joshua Rumley, Danielle Peralta, Sawyer Reese Farr, Sahara, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xxena Rush, Ryan Brom, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter, Eileen O, Marissa E, Henry F, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Erica Morin, Tris Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Carrie A, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Murderstina, Kristen Marcy,
Ori 81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Felnez 63, Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Valerie Kay, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith, Autumn Green, Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S., Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Kim H., August, Jenny May, Old School Cool, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D., Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Tyler J., Cam Davies, Patrick Hoagland, Raven, Wesley Tart, Kristen Jackson, Jacob Nordberg, Samantha, Damian Grant, Half Price Horror, Clemmy, Nisi Nay, Jason X Rules, Aaron Norman, Victoria Smith, Patricia A. Graham, Erasmo Pena, Danielle Wright, Chuck D., Tabitha Thomas, Connie Lingus, Richard Murray, Irene, Sally Slater 52, Jordan McCarthy, Rosalind Harnias, Emily Rance, Amy, Lisa and Kathy, Mike H., Christian Sadler, Hannah, Sarah Jack, Casey L., Evelyn Knight, Paula Garcia, Nikki M., Ghastly Grandad, Megan and Alexandra Saldivar, Lisa Sykes, Kelsey Niemeyer Cook, Martina LaForce, JG, Mergen Novello, Ashley, Alex M., Brandon C., Gordon Sutherland, Georgia Renland, Ashley Poe, Diana Joe, Connor Gormley, Carrie Parker, Katie Face, Jane Pillsbury, Caitlin Asher, Mia Franz,
Pooh Bear, Spicy Caldera, This is the Zodiac Speaking, Jason the Ghost, Moldy Tic Tac, Brian Ward, Tanner Rutgers, Gremlin Keeper 22, Sam Spade 666, Veronica, Kristen Rhodes, Daniel Laurent, Carmito, TVR, A Very Sweepy Baby, Nicholas Rage, A Lazy Boy, Nicola Williams, Sadison Miles, Stu Corbett, Brick O, Jaden Nicole, Lost Fan 08, George L. Robertson, Mercedes X Bleeple, Joel Miller Apologist, Jaylene Perry, Cool Trainer Elijah, Mrs. Bloomingdale, Sierra Duncan, Renee Hart, Meg Like Sleep, Final Boy, Alani, Nosferatu Dude, Elizabeth Thompson, Joey, Michelle Nicole, The Lipstick Demon, Less Than Zombie, Franklin Badge, Sean Reeves, The Kryptonian Orphan, Melissa B., Elena C., Jillian Munford, Evil Chris, Rex Term Raul, Witchy Poop 19, Brian Avers, Danielle Milton, Instant Horror, Just Give Me One Wish Like Ray J, Skin Deep, Christian Salvatierra, Ashay Guevara, Aaron Mr. Clean Bashard, Henny Kravitz, Francisco Olmos, Paunchy Cat, Christina Perez, Buddy Boy Mac, Revamped, a Rewatch Podcast, Sarah Coolidge, Showlivia, Film Fiend, Catherine Clark, Brandon Brown, Jessica Hernandez, Camry, Amy Shipley, Like the Donuts, Jack, Alyssa Muskites, Jennifer Hager, Knox Nocturnal, and Byron Pittman. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank each and every one of you.
We truly appreciate you for having faith in us.
Aw.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Until next time.